Is it the vampire nearby? I didn't bother you, but you guys are bothering me. He lowered his head, and his eyes, like huge lanterns, stared at the thing in front of him. At the same time, when he was unscrupulously releasing the majesty of the B-plus beast in his body, one of the gargoyles hit him right in the eye socket. This blow stunned him directly, and anger gradually spread on his face, especially the breath that emerged from the place, where a black mark appeared on the face after being hit. P.S. Dear friends, Happy Mid-Autumn Festival, tilde tilde tilde. Chapter 248, How Dare You Challenge Me? At this moment, he felt a surge of anger rising in his heart. That's right, feel that breath. Apart from the vampire that he knew, who else would be so bold? These gargoyles are not wild ones, they are all that guy's slaves. He actually dared to provoke me. He actually dared to provoke me. The Deinonychus had never been so angry. You know, we have been waiting here for such a long time for the two thunder beasts to reappear. He didn't know how much time and effort it took. I thought I had calmed down a lot, but now. He stared ahead fiercely, his anger gradually spreading, and he spoke through clenched teeth. When I find the chance and catch those guys, I will make sure you die without a burial place. As he said this, he subconsciously began to threaten those around him, but before he could continue speaking, the gargoyles rushed towards it again. This time, the Deinonychus crocodile bird felt that its own dignity had been completely overturned. For the first time, he felt what it felt like to be extremely angry. Rage, extreme rage, began to rise from within his heart. His eyes almost widened. He was extremely angry and spoke with clenched teeth. Great, that's great. You think I'm afraid of you, don't you? Once I devour those guys, you will die without a burial place. I will kill these bastards of yours once and for all now. He laughed twice in a hideous and weird way, and then twisted rage seemed to gradually rise up along with the anger in his heart in an instant. In that state of extreme rage, with gritting teeth, a hot breath came out of his mouth, as if he was going to swallow up everything in front of him in the next second. And at the moment when this guy inhaled and exhaled hot breath, a black force burst out from his mouth, followed by the huge figure that attacked the gargoyles in front. Then Su Lin and the others witnessed the extreme horror and distortion of the guy in front of them. A surging and terrifying aura gradually burst out from its body. Under the influence of the extremely domineering and angry aura, he became more and more violent and began to tear the gargoyles around him into pieces. And then an even more terrifying aura emerged from the front. He looked at everything around him with a roar, and only after he had torn all the gargoyles around him into pieces did he let out two strange laughs. However, just as he laughed out loud, he suddenly froze. Looking ahead with a frown, suddenly he saw Su Lin and the others at this moment. That's right, just as he was frantically attacking the monsters around him. At this moment, Su Lin and the others had already followed him in the direction of Zhu Yunjian in front. The Deinonychus crocodile bird widened its eyes. I never thought that I would be fooled by someone like this. Although I don't know what these guys are going to do, but looking at their appearance. He rushed forward ferociously, gritting his teeth as anger burst out from his heart again. Damn you bastards, I'm going to tear you to pieces. The moment the roar came out of his mouth, he looked ahead ferociously, but at this time Su Lin. But one reminder sound after another came to my ears. Congratulations to Yan Country's Su Lin for discovering the special copy of Juyan's inheritance site. Do you want to enter it? Only for B level and below. Listening to the words in his ear, Su Lin smiled and then looked forward. She continued to look forward with grace in her eyes, and then she laughed. Interesting. I was wondering why you didn't go in. It turns out you can't get in, so you've been guarding here like this. Su Lin had a smile on his face as he looked at the guy in front of him carefully. Then a hint of sarcasm flashed in his thoughtful eyes, and he raised his hand. Lightning chain. In an instant, a flash of lightning rushed towards the guy in front. Before the alligator bird could react, Su Lin launched several consecutive attacks. Thunder is violent. Thunderball. In an instant, several bolts of lightning struck the guy in front of him and made him dizzy. As Su Lin felt the power in his body flashing out directly, the surging lightning caused the huge alligator bird in front of him to tremble abnormally all over. Under the influence of the power in Su Lin's body, at this moment, after the Deinonychus crocodile bird roared, it stared at Su Lin's direction. Its ferocious eyes were filled with anger, distortion, and gnashing of teeth. What's your relationship with the Thunder Beast? You and those two. Before he could finish his words, Su Lin looked ahead with disdain, then laughed and continued speaking. What's the relationship? Just guess it yourself. Anyway, I'm collecting some interest first. As he spoke, the lightning in Su Lin's hand flew towards his head again, under the influence of the surging and vast force. The alligator bird in front of them seemed to become more ferocious and roared, intending to catch Su Lin and the others on the spot. But the next moment, as Su Lin and the others disappeared from the spot in an instant, he let out a silent roar. "Damn bastards, damn guys, I'm waiting for you. Are you going to come out? I want to see how you die without a burial place. When you come out, I will devour you and make you die miserably." His extremely distorted face was filled with a ferocious look as he looked at the guy in front of him. The last thing Su Lin noticed was the eyes, which were full of ferocity and coldness. After everything from the front disappeared, the surroundings instantly became quiet. Followed closely, looking at everything in front of me with some curiosity. Su Lin and others came to an area that seemed somewhat desolate and vast. Everything here looks extremely strange, even. There are waves of strange light all around. Su Lin and others saw the light flowing in front of them, and the brilliance faintly emerging from the light. There seems to be some strange connection between the dots of light and the lush green mountains, forests and rivers around them. What is this place? There was a hint of curiosity on Su Lin's face, and at the same time, there was a hint of surprise in Ariel's eyes beside him. Is this the place of inheritance? Oh no, it should be said to be a secret place. Because the crocodile bird had been guarding here before, she had no chance to get close to this place. Now that I am here, I suddenly feel a strange and weird sensation. P.S. I have insomnia again. I have to take a bus back to my hometown later. I'll take a nap first and buy some motion sickness medicine, by the way. Chapter 249. Entering it, there is really a secret realm. Everything here seems extremely quiet, and there is even a sense of deep silence in the quietness. It makes people feel like they want to stay here forever. Ariel felt the breath all over his body, and an inexplicable feeling of comfort surged into his heart. However, before he could continue speaking, Su Lin raised his eyes and looked forward. Something's not right here. Before he could finish his words, a faint flash of lightning suddenly appeared again in front of him. At the same time, a bright aura exploded in front of them, and an inexplicable force also illuminated the surroundings. There is lightning in the secret realm. There was a hint of curiosity on Su Lin's face, but it also explained a point. Maybe little Zai Lei's parents are really here. Otherwise, why would there be so many traces of lightning here? Su Lin turned to look at Zai Lei beside him, and unlike the cursing look he had before, this was a telegram. At this moment, Zai Lei's eyes were filled with a thoughtful and nervous look. It seems that this little guy Zai Lei is not as heartless as he thought. At least when I knew my parents existed, I still had a little conscience. Su Lin looked at Zai Lei beside him, then smiled and touched the other's head. "Don't worry, I will help you find your parents, don't worry about that." Listening to Su Lin's words, Zai Lei nodded, his eyes full of anticipation. After all, Su Lin has never gone back on his word, and it must be the same now. Looking at Su Lin, Zai Lei's face was full of happiness. At the same time, look forward. Everyone continued to explore. Keep walking forward. After crossing the surroundings in the woods, the aura of thunder and fire became more obvious. Everything around seemed to have been specially cleaned. At the same time, Su Lin also saw a few strange things not far away that seemed to have been left with traces deliberately. It seemed to be a mark specially made by lightning. Looking at the scene in front of him, Su Lin narrowed his eyes. After looking around curiously, he was about to speak, and at this moment, "Yes, this is the power that comes from my origin. My parents are here." After Zai Lei carefully sensed the front, his expression seemed to become much happier. Listening to Zai Lei's words, Su Lin couldn't help but smile and nodded. "That's good." After narrowing his eyes slightly and gently touching Zai Lei's head, Su Lin was about to speak, and at this moment, a strange figure brought by the light of lightning came from the front and attacked Su Lin and the others directly. Looking at the strange existence in front of him, Su Lin narrowed his eyes. Then he used the arrow of light to quickly illuminate the front and recognized what it was. Name, Thunder Elf. Grade, C+. Psychic power, 8,000. Talent, immune to lightning origin, C+. Skills, lightning chain, blue, LV6, lightning damage, blue, LV5. Looking at the words appearing in front of him, Su Lin couldn't help but be stunned for 2 seconds. Quite interesting. Where did this lightning spirit come from? It looks like a special force made of lightning. Could it be that this was some gadget that Zai Lei's parents made while they were trapped here during this period? As he thought of this, Su Lin suddenly became more curious. He squinted his eyes, then activated the power of light and instantly caught the lightning elf in front of him. After carefully exploring it for a while, he couldn't help but show a little surprise and weirdness on his face. I couldn't make out what was going on from a distance just now, but the closer I got, the more I realized that there was something wrong with this thing. That's right. This seems to be a man-made product like those gargoyles, and compared to the gargoyles, this thing is purer, more aggressive. The moment Su Lin grabbed him, thunder and lightning continued to flash on the spot, as if it would completely destroy everything around it in the next second. Along with that chain of lightning, it continued to burst out instantly from the body of the thing in front of him. Su Lin smiled as he used thunder to temporarily suppress the power of the thing in front of him. I can't let you get mad like that. There was still a smile on Su Lin's lips, and the emotion in his eyes seemed particularly serious. As the lightning in his body suppressed the thing in front of him, Zai Lei on the other side couldn't help but look ahead curiously. What the hell is this? There was a look of surprise on Zai Lei's face. After listening to Zai Lei's words, Su Lin looked ahead and then laughed. The original life created by lightning, I think it was created by your parents. It's a very interesting little thing. As Zai Lei carefully narrowed his eyes, and a hint of joy flashed in his eyes. After all, knowing the power of his parents was the best thing. Just when Zai Lei was filled with joy, on the other side, one after another, domineering lightning flashed from the front, followed by the sound of angry roars. Who are you? How did you get here? What do you want to do? Are you trying to make an enemy of us? As he spoke, an unknown lightning bolt fiercely attacked forward. Hearing that familiar voice, Zai Lei couldn't help but widen his eyes at this moment. Father, although I haven't seen him for many years, the person in front of me seems to be still familiar to me. Hearing the voice next to his ear, the huge existence that was originally roaring and talking suddenly froze. Then the invisible force rushed directly forward. In a daze, he stared in the direction of the purple thunder with wide eyes. Then he rubbed his eyes in disbelief. The huge thunder beast turned into a middle-aged man with a strange expression at this moment. As the light of thunder emanated from his body, he stared in the direction of the purple thunder with his eyes wide open. Then he spoke incredulously. You were also chased here by that ghost thing outside. I didn't expect that he would not only not let us go, but also chase you down. If I ever find the chance, I will chop him into pieces. Don't worry, daughter. I will definitely find a way to deal with that guy. Listening to this guy's words, the originally flustered expression on Zai Lei's face gradually became dissatisfied. Originally, Zai Lei's heart was full of longing for his parents, but it feels different. Chapter 250, The Sharp-Eyed Old Father, The Place of Inheritance. Looking at the guy in front of him, Zai Lei couldn't help but feel a strange feeling in his heart at this moment. After staring at him strangely for a while, a strange look appeared at the corner of his mouth, and then he lowered his eyes slightly. Looking at his father, Zai Lei at this moment could not imagine why he missed him so much in the past. But when a living person stood in front of me, the longing in my heart became a little strange. That's right, it's full of strangeness, both familiar and strange. Zai Lei shook his head and took a few steps back, not quite sure how to express himself. All right. Looking at his nominal father, Zai Lei sighed. She needed some time to calm herself down. On the other side, Su Lin discovered that the strength of the thunder beast in front of him had reached B+. Named Lei Ling. Race Thunder Beast. Grade B+. Psychic power 75,000. Talent Lightning Element Mastery B+. Skills Thunder Fury. Purple. LV6 Lightning Chain Purple. LV9 Lightning Ball Purple. LV9 Strong Electric Shield Purple. LV7 Thunder Horn Impact Purple. LV9. Looking at the so-called old father-in-law in front of him, well, let's just say he is, Su Lin couldn't help but raise his eyes slightly. A different look of thought flashed across his face. After staring at the other person for a while, he spoke. You are Zai Lei's father, right? Hearing Su Lin's words, Lei Ling in front of him turned his gaze. There was a hint of lightning in those eyes when he saw that his daughter looked extremely similar to Su Lin. The look in his eyes became sharp at this moment, and he looked at Su Lin with almost wide eyes. Immediately afterwards, his eyes widened. That's right. After all, Lei Ling had gone through countless things and spent a lot of energy before he could be together with Zai Lei's mother. If you say that Lei Ling knows nothing, you are just kidding. In just a moment, Lei Ling looked at Su Lin and the others, and his face instantly turned blank. Looking at Su Lin carefully, there was a strange look in his eyes. Is there some unusual relationship between you and my daughter? As he spoke, Lei Ling's aura brought up a flash of lightning, which seemed to be about to explode in all directions in the next second. The surging and terrifying force seemed to be about to rush in front of Su Lin in the next second. At the same time, at this moment, in the live broadcast room of Yan Country, countless people looked at the scene in front of them, and a look of weirdness appeared on their faces. To be honest, why does this scene look so much like taking the girlfriend to meet the father-in-law? Moreover, Levin's face is so black that it is almost as black as coal. It seems that this old father-in-law is getting more and more irritable. Who told him to have so many girlfriends at the same time? People who watch him on weekdays must be so envious. Yes, yes, there are so many people following, and they even brought a small telegraph machine into the secret realm. It's time to start Ashura Field. It depends on whether you can withstand it or not. Countless people couldn't help but communicate in the live broadcast room. But just when they were about to watch Su Lin's show, as Lei Ling made his move, Zai Lei stopped his father. Is mother here too? And what was that lightning-like thing just now? Did you do it? After listening to his daughter's words, Lei Ling, who was originally a little angry, was stunned. After 2 seconds of silence, he looked to the side and looked at Su Lin deeply. Then he continued speaking. This is just some protection we left behind for our temporary survival in the secret realm. As he spoke, Lei Ling tapped his fingertips again, and then one after another, flashes of lightning came from all directions. Those things seemed like elves, with thunder constantly surging out of their bodies, and terrifying lightning was surging in all directions. Under the power of the raging thunder, endless aura seemed to cover everything. Feel the breath of those lightning elves that keep emerging around. At this moment, the people around couldn't help but feel inexplicably shocked. After all, although the level of these lightning elves is only C+, there are at least dozens of them. There were dozens of lightning elves hiding around them, but they didn't notice anything at all. It was incredible. Su Lin looked at the lightning elves around him, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. It seems that the parents of this little telegraph are quite powerful, as these lightning elves were really created by them. Su Lin thought in his mind while looking around. At the same time, Lei Ling said proudly, over the years, thanks to these lightning spirits, your mother and I have lived a very smooth life in this secret realm, and I managed to break through B+ here. As he spoke, he looked at the B-level strength of the small telegraph machine and was stunned for a moment. I didn't expect that my daughter's strength would improve so quickly. It has only been a short time for her to reach such a level. Is it related to that boy? Lei Ling thought about it and looked at Su Lin again. After all, there was a unique and strange aura about Su Lin. This made him think more. Listening to Lei Ling's words, Zai Lei pouted into satisfaction. It's already a B+, can't you beat the guys out there? As he spoke, Zai Lei's eyes were almost filled with tears. I have been wandering outside for these years, especially the Deinonychus crocodile bird outside. It has almost become his nightmare. Logically speaking, since my parents are so powerful, I shouldn't be afraid. However, after listening to Zai Lei's words, Lei Ling couldn't help but rub his head. There was a helpless and honest look on his face, and the majestic look just now had completely disappeared. Your mother and I both have about 70,000 spiritual energies now, and that ghost thing outside has now reached the peak of B+, and it is estimated that it is only one step away from entering A. Although your mother and I may not be his match together if we really fight. Lei Ling sighed with emotion as he spoke. If a fight really breaks out, I'm not sure if I'll be the opponent. Who knows if there will be any problems at that time? And a hint of helplessness flashed across Lei Ling's face. Looking at the look in the other person's eyes, Su Lin keenly realized that something was wrong, and then asked, is there any reason? Hearing Su Lin's question, Lei Ling in front of him couldn't help but pause and looked at Su Lin carefully. After thinking for a moment, he continued speaking. It's not that I have any hardship, but there is a place of inheritance in this secret realm. Chapter 251, Preparation, Entertaining Guests. We strongly suspect that if the Deinonychus crocodile bird possesses the inheritance land, it will be able to break through A. So we don't dare let him in, and he can't get in. Lei Ling shook his head. It is precisely relying on the power in this secret realm that we have accumulated a lot of strength over the years. Listening to his father's words, a trace of heartache flashed across Zai Lei's face. After all, don't think it's as simple as Lei Ling said, but the hidden influence and corresponding situations might not be as calm as those plain words suggest. After all, the strength of the Deinonychus crocodile bird outside was higher than that of Lei Ling and his wife. In addition, it took the Lei Ling couple an unknown amount of time to escape from the clutches of the Deinonychus crocodile bird and reach the secret realm. Over the years, we have to keep an eye on the alligator bird outside at all times. Looking at the distressed expression on his daughter's face, Lei Ling couldn't help but laugh, but then shook his head and continued. You don't have to worry. Due to the limitations of the secret realm, B+ level cannot enter directly. After we break through, it will have no effect on the two of us. Lei Ling laughed and then gently touched his daughter's head. Your mother hasn't seen you in these years. How about taking your friends to meet her? Lei Ling paused for 2 seconds with an emphasis on Su Lin, then twitched the corner of his mouth. It seems that the old father-in-law still doesn't feel that good about Su Lin. Listening to his father's words, the little telegraph machine turned his attention to Su Lin. Looking at Zai Lei's eyes beside him, Su Lin smiled and touched the other's head, then continued speaking. Go ahead. As they spoke, a few people, led by Lei Ling, walked towards the depths of the secret realm. The further you go, the more you can feel the surge of lightning around you. One after another, bolts of lightning flashed recklessly towards the surrounding sky. In that surging and vast breath, one can feel the terrifying power and violent aura around. The power of the thunder light seemed extremely terrifying, and as one lightning bolt after another rushed towards the sky unscrupulously, I can clearly feel the influence behind that aura more clearly. There seemed to be an invisible force sweeping towards the sky and the earth. Thunder after thunder almost completely covered everything around. Turbulent, overbearing, and vast. It seems that the two of them spent a lot of time and effort when they first came here. I don't know how much strength he used just to resist the crocodile bird outside. After squinting his eyes and looking around carefully, Su Lin became thoughtful. And under the impact of lightning again and again, no one knew how much time had passed. Su Lin suddenly heard a voice next to his ear. Girl! A happy voice rang beside my ears and poured into my ears at the same time. Then a woman with a gentle aura appeared from the lightning in front and hugged the small telegraph machine. The thunder all over her body gave her a purple coat. The surging and vast power continued to emerge from the body, as if it was about to rush out in all directions. Looking at the middle-aged woman in front of him, Su Lin instantly recognized her identity in the next second. That's right, if nothing unexpected happens, the person in front of him is most likely Zai Lei's mother. The middle-aged woman held Zai Lei and rubbed it gently on her cheek. Then she turned her gaze to Su Lin again. After thinking for a moment, he seemed to search for Su Lin's name in his mind. Then he asked, Are you my daughter's lover? This sentence almost made Su Linlei fall down. He looked at the person in front of him in disbelief. He didn't say a word for a long time. My goodness, after hearing this, Su Lin didn't know how to answer it. You said answer yourself, right? That's a bit too much. Su Lin wiped the sweat from his forehead slightly, compared to Lei Ling, who almost showed his annoyance and dissatisfaction on his face. This person's enthusiasm really made Su Lin not know how to evaluate it. He took 2 steps back slightly embarrassedly. Then Su Lin narrowed his eyes and spoke. The relationship between me and her. Before Su Lin finished speaking, he heard the small telegraph machine suddenly jump up, and then, I have thought of it. A somewhat serious voice came out of Zio Dian Bayaji's mouth, almost making Su Lin stunned and confused for a moment. He looked at the small telegraph machine in front of him in a daze. Su Lin didn't know what to say for a moment, just twitched the corner of his mouth. At the same time in the live broadcast room, everyone from Yan country looked at Zai Lei in front of Su Lin and directly acknowledged her and Su Lin's identities, and immediately countless people were excited. I think this is a death sentence. That means not only the death penalty, but a severe one. Su Shen, how could my Su Shen have fallen? Countless people were throwing tantrums and rolling around in the live broadcast room. And on Su Lin's side, then I saw that the woman was also stunned for a moment, and a smile instantly appeared on her face. I see, then we have to entertain them well. As she spoke, she raised her hands slightly, shook hands with Su Lin, and then began to speak. I am this child's mother. Then he turned his head and looked in the direction of Lei Ling, looking at the ugly face that Lei Ling showed when he heard Su Lin's words. This kid finally came here with his friends, and now he finds us. Why are you showing such a stinky face? Hurry up and entertain them properly. Listening to what his wife said, Lei Ling wanted to say something, but seeing those eyes wide open, he couldn't help but take 2 steps back. He lowered his head dejectedly. At the same time, he looked at Su Lin with gritted teeth, wishing he could bite him hard twice on the spot. My daughter finally came back, but this bastard actually kidnapped her like this. The anger in his heart surged up, and he widened his eyes. He forced a smile on his face, then walked to Su Lin's side and clapped his hands gently. Let's go. However, before the thought of revenge could arise in his mind, Zai Lei's mother spoke again. "What are you doing? This kid brought our daughter here with him. They are our guests, and you still want them to help you with things." After saying this and directly driving Lei Ling away, the atmosphere on the field became weird again. Chapter 252, Mother-in-law meets son-in-law. Mother Zai Lei, who was standing aside, naturally looked at Su Lin with a smile on her face. The smile and the unusual look in his eyes seemed to be confirming his identity with Su Lin. At the same time, his eyes would occasionally glance at Zai Lei beside him. It's just like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law. The more she looks, the happier her eyes become, and the happier she seems to feel inside. After staring at Su Lin for a long while, he finally opened his mouth and continued speaking. "Good boy, I wonder what the relationship between you and my daughter is like. This girl doesn't cause you any trouble on weekdays, right? If the relationship is not good, you must tell me." As he spoke, Zai Lei's mother laughed and continued. "His father and I usually take care of him, and the little guy doesn't take care of him much. So if there is anything wrong, please forgive me." Listening to the words of Zai Lei's mother in front of him, Su Lin naturally smiled slightly. At the same time, he looked at the person in front of him and continued speaking. "I have a good relationship with the little telegraph machine." As he spoke, Su Lin looked up and down at the small telegraph machine beside him, and then continued. "That is..." Su Lin looked at the small telegraph machine beside him. After looking him up and down for a while, he turned his gaze to the person in front of him, and after thinking for a moment, he continued speaking. "It's this mouth that's so annoying." Hearing Su Lin's words, the eyes of the small telegraph machine next to him suddenly widened. Just as he was about to speak, he saw his mother continuing to speak to Su Lin. "It's also because the child is not with us, so naturally life is a little different. She suffered so much in the past." The mother of the little telegraph machine liked Su Lin more than his father. Her eyes would linger on Su Lin for a moment from time to time, and then the smile on her lips became more obvious. Listening to the words of the person in front of him, Su Lin looked him up and down. After thinking for a moment, he smiled and touched the head of the small telegraph machine again. But having her here makes things more lively. As he looked at the little telegraph machine in front of him, whose expression gradually became happier, Su Lin continued. "You may not know this, but with this guy here, I feel like my territory is much more relaxed." As he spoke, Su Lin had a brief conversation with the woman next to him. Then Lei Ling was seen bringing a large pile of fruits from somewhere. The various fruits placed in front of you are particularly eye-catching. Looking at the pile of fruits in front of him, Lei Ling didn't have time to speak. Then he heard his wife continue speaking. "Let's prepare these things later. We can't let other people's children be dissatisfied with us." Hearing this, Lei Ling's eyes widened instantly. Originally, Su Lin was very happy that he brought his daughter back. But when he looked at the boy in front of him and the appearance of his daughter, he suddenly felt anger rising in his heart, and he was about to commit evil. "But there is nothing I can do about it. It's because my wife is so well coaxed." He looked at Su Lin helplessly with an angry look on his face and took a deep breath. But before he could continue speaking, his wife beside him immediately ordered him to continue doing this and that. Then Lei Ling was assigned to do other things. Looking at the way Lei Ling stared at him with wide eyes as he left, Su Lin almost laughed out loud. To be honest, he had never seen a henpecked man so strict. However, it is a good opportunity for Lei Ling to relax since he is controlled by his wife. Su Lin took another sip of the tea brought to him by Lei Ling's wife, and then the smile on his face became even more peaceful. While Su Lin and his friends were having a pleasant conversation, something went wrong in the live broadcast room. After all, many foreigners came here with the idea that Su Lin was in a Shura field. But who could have imagined that? Not only was this guy not condemned by the Shura field, but he was able to establish a good relationship with that mother-in-law-like character. Seeing Su Lin and the mother of the little telegraph machine getting along so harmoniously, the people in the live broadcast room on the other side were really gritting their teeth. How is this possible? This guy is really lucky. It's not just luck. This time I actually got the upper hand of my future mother-in-law. You can imagine what will happen in the future. Oh, I won't say any more. The more I talk, the more envious I become. I feel like fire is coming out of my eyes. Yes, why is Su Lin so powerful? Everyone's heart was trembling as they watched, and at the same time they were looking at the scene in the live broadcast room at this moment. Seeing Su Lin's light and particularly pleasing movements, some people even started talking about how Su Lin was a gigolo in the chat group. However, it would have been fine if he hadn't said this, but as soon as he said it, he was immediately criticized by others. Immediately afterwards, they started to investigate those guys who were still attacking Su Lin on the internet. As expected, there are all kinds of overseas addresses. You know, no matter what, Su Lin is still a treasure of the country. People in China are reluctant to criticize you, but people abroad are so arrogant. What do they want to do? Do you still dare to criticize our great God? The country quickly began to organize a counterattack. Immediately afterwards, countless people in the live broadcast room started cursing. But in the end, it's the domestic keyboard warriors who are so awesome that they can criticize many others just like one. No matter how hard those people abroad try, they are still not afraid of the years of experience in China. Those foreign guys were so angry that they became autistic. At a time when people at home and abroad were relying on Su Lin's live broadcast room and quickly began to criticize Day. At this moment, Su Lin is here. While looking at the appearances of Lei Ling and the other person beside him, he also looked at Zai Lei's expression. After thinking for a moment, he spoke directly. Do you two want to make enemies with those guys outside the secret realm now? Although Su Lin did not directly point out who he was going to deal with, but looking at the look in his eyes and the appearance of the two people beside him, both Lei Ling and Zai Lei, who were well prepared, could not help but narrow their eyes slightly. If you say that Zai Lei has no hatred, that is absolutely impossible. Little Electric Explosive Chicken's family originally consisted of 3 people. All of them were thunder beasts, but they lived a pretty good life. But he was chased by that dead bird outside and ended up like this. How long will the family be separated? The parents of the little telegraph machine were chased here. If they hadn't been lucky, they would have come across the place outside and entered this secret realm. Then I just happened to be lucky enough to swallow a lot of good things, which led to my current B+ strength, if you really count it. Chapter 253, Winning Over, Discussing, and Solving. The two of them have been frightened for so long, and have stayed here for so long. No one is as dissatisfied with the bird outside as they are. So after they looked at each other. At this moment, Lei Ling glared at first, then spoke in a somewhat dissatisfied voice. Yes, I think so even in my dreams. I wish I could chop that dead bird into pieces. If it weren't for that damn bird, they would never have missed their daughter for so long. How old was my daughter before? Thinking about that time and then thinking about now, there was a long-lost change on their faces, and their eyes were almost staring straight ahead. Hearing the decisive answers from the two people in front of him, the smile on Su Lin's face became more obvious. With a slight smile on his face, he continued speaking. That's good. As he spoke, Su Lin looked the two people in front of him up and down, narrowed his eyes, and then continued. Then I have an idea to deal with the things outside. As he spoke, Su Lin's eyes flickered slightly, and then he continued speaking. After all, I think you two know a lot about what's out there. He is only one step away from reaching the level. No one knows when he will achieve the breakthrough. As Su Lin spoke, he played with the fruit in his hand that Lei Ling brought back for a while, and then spoke. So we must act quickly, accurately, and ruthlessly, and kill them with one strike to complete the mission. As Su Lin spoke, he exerted more force on his movements. He played with it more vigorously, and then spoke. I think you all know it. It takes a lot of energy to deal with the things outside. As Su Lin spoke, he raised his eyes, then looked carefully at the two people in front of him, and his tone became even deeper. So, Su Lin was silent for 2 seconds, then continued. As the price for this move, even if you two are the parents of the little telegraph machine, I also hope that you two can join my territory. As he spoke, a look of pride and certainty flashed in Su Lin's eyes. After all, having 2 B+ level characters join his territory will definitely be a great boost for him. And with a small telegraph, there was no need to worry about any major conflicts between me and these two. Thinking of this, Su Lin smiled even more and touched the head of the small telegraph machine. The smile at the corner of his mouth became more and more obvious. While listening to Su Lin's words, the two people on the other side couldn't help but be stunned. While thinking carefully and looking in Su Lin's direction, the two looked at each other, and then their eyes stopped on Su Lin again. In fact, it's not that they don't want to join Su Lin's territory. After all, their own daughter is there, so the two of them are quite happy. But after they thought for a moment, they heard Lei Ling continue speaking. That guy outside is at the peak of B+ level, and now his strength is much stronger than both of us. Don't think that we have 75,000 spiritual energies. But if a fight really comes to a head, it won't be a problem for it to fight two at once. Lei Ling was silent for 2 seconds before continuing. Why don't we wait a little longer? There are plenty of natural treasures in this secret realm. After you break through to B+, why not attack him later? Listening to Lei Ling's words at this moment, Su Lin couldn't help but feel a strange feeling in his heart. After thinking for a moment, he paused for 2 seconds and then, there was silence for a moment, shaked his head. If possible, he really wanted to break through as quickly as possible. But the strength of that guy outside is really too peak. If he really succeeds in breaking through first, something bad is going to happen to everyone present. A being that could break through at any time. We must never let him stay outside. There was a hint of depth in Su Lin's eyes, and then he continued speaking. We have to get rid of it first, otherwise everything else is nonsense. As he spoke, the look in Su Lin's eyes became even deeper. Hearing Su Lin's words, everyone present couldn't help but look at each other. Naturally, everyone including Little Telegraph Machine agreed. Only at this moment, the vampire next to him had a sad look on his face. What should we do? They are actually going to attack that guy outside. Isn't this nonsense? That guy's strength is much stronger than everyone present. If a fight really breaks out, I may not be able to defeat her. And with their strength, if they really fight with that guy, it is not certain who will win or lose. But I happen to come here with Su Lin and the others, which means that if Su Lin fights with the things outside, I will be classified as a member of Su Lin's camp. This is really death. After thinking for a moment, the expression on her face became increasingly weak. In the silent eyes, there is more helplessness and emotion. After thinking deeply for 2 seconds, she continued, I can create more gargoyles as cover to help us scout the way ahead. That's right, in order to prevent Su Lin and his team from being defeated. She was ready to take the initiative to find a solution for them. Listening to the words of the guy in front of him, Su Lin looked up and down at the vampire in front of him, and then the expression on his face became more and more weird. His gaze paused on the other person for a moment, then he seemed to think for 2 seconds, then spoke with a smile. Interesting, really interesting. Looking carefully at the existence in front of him, he seemed to be silent for 2 seconds. Then he continued to speak. Do you really want to? Listening to Su Lin's words, the guy next to him couldn't help but twitch his mouth, and then sighed helplessly. What's the point of not caring whether you are willing or not? Can you let yourself go even if you are unwilling? Rather than being killed by that guy later, it is better to take action now. Think of this. She rolled her eyes and stopped talking. Looking at the guy in front of him, Su Lin's face became even more smiling. But after taking a slightly appreciative look, without continuing to tease the vampire in front of him, Su Lin turned his attention to Lei Ling and the other person beside him. He seemed to think for a moment, then asked, What else do you know about the Deinonychus crocodile bird outside? After listening to Su Lin's words, Lei Ling seemed to be silent for 2 seconds, and then he started talking again. As for our understanding of the guy outside, we do know a little bit. He was injured by us before, right? Chapter 254, Kill Him While He's Ill. As Lei Ling spoke, a look of reminiscence appeared on his face, and then his eyes widened, as if he was thinking for a moment before continuing. When we were chased here, there was no way out. That guy outside is determined to hunt us down, devour our origins, and kill us. He must completely wipe us out. As Lei Ling spoke, his eyes were silent for 2 seconds, and then a deeper look appeared in his eyes. He clenched his hands tightly and continued to speak. At that time, we were worried about our daughter, and also considered the impact on ourselves. We fought a fierce battle with him here, and almost changed the terrain here. As he spoke, Lei Ling's eyes widened even wider, with a hint of ferocity in them. Listening to Lei Ling's words and looking at the appearance of the person in front of him, Su Lin couldn't help but raise his eyes slightly. Are there any wounds on your body? Su Lin pondered for a moment, and the silence in his eyes became more and more obvious. If there are still wounds on my body, then maybe. They can serve as a breakthrough point this time. Su Lin thought for a moment. After all, he should kill him while he is sick. I wonder what the current situation of the Deinonychus crocodile bird is like. Moreover, they now have 2 B+ and several B grades, so there may be hope. Although the Deinonychus crocodile bird is very powerful. But so what? Can he beat Su Lin in a one-on-one fight? While thinking about it, Lei Ling continued before Su Lin could speak. And he has always wanted the inheritance in this secret realm. That thing should be able to help him make a lot of breakthroughs. But due to my husband and I's constant defense, he hasn't succeeded yet. As he spoke, Lei Ling's face showed a hint of confidence, and at the same time, Su Lin looked at Lei Ling curiously and couldn't help but ask again with narrowed eyes. What's the use of that so-called inheritance? Listening to Su Lin's words, Lei Ling on the side seemed to think for a moment, and then a hint of silence appeared in his eyes. After thinking for a while, he said, The inheritance contains the key to breaking through from B plus to A, and it seems to be able to help the Deinonychus crocodile bird further improve its own bloodline. This is why he has always wanted this place so much. Lei Ling couldn't help but sigh as he spoke. But in order to open the secret realm inheritance here, a B+ level power source core is required. So, is this also the reason why Lei Ling and Abs are still stuck at level B+? Listening to what Lei Ling and his wife said, Su Lin thought for a moment. There was a hint of silence on his face, and then the corners of his mouth slightly curled up. I see it's interesting to open the secret realm inheritance. Then I must join in the fun. As he spoke, Su Lin pursed his lips, seemed to be silent for 2 seconds, and then continued. Then let's act according to the plan now. First, I'd like to trouble you two to hide in secret, and then send a large number of gargoyles out to harass the Devil's Claw crocodile bird. On the one hand, we will hide in the dark, and on the other hand, when the Deinonychus is off guard, you two will attack, and we will assist you then. What do you think? We just need to work together, and we will surely make sure that devil-clawed crocodile bird dies without a burial place. Su Lin had arranged almost everything, and listening to his words, the couple next to him couldn't help but look at each other and nodded. Now that it has come to this, it must be possible. Besides, dealing with the Deinonychus crocodile bird outside is their dream. Done. There was a sharp look in his words. While listening to Su Lin's words and looking at the appearance of Lei Ling and his wife on the other side, the vampire's charming face showed a confused look at this moment. After being silent for a while, he raised his hand. No way. They have already done it, so I can't just sit here and not take action. Otherwise, I will be eaten alive by them. Now I can be considered Su Lin's subordinate. Thinking of this at this moment, she couldn't help but shed tears for herself. You have to know that no matter what, you are considered a talented genius among the vampires. But how come you have become a slave of an ordinary person? Poor thing. He sighed in his heart, and the expression on his face couldn't help but become more helpless. But there was no other way. So everyone rested for a while and then started to act quickly. At the same time, several people followed the predetermined plan. They first let the gargoyles leave the secret realm and then harassed the crocodile bird. Following closely, the Thunder Beast couple hid in secret, while the others prepared on the left and right sides. Start the crusade against the Deinonychus. At the same time, there was a wound on the huge body of the Deinonychus, and the breath of thunder and lightning seemed extremely strong. The wound that was caused by the Thunder Beast couple was still emitting the breath of thunder and lightning. With a ferocious look on its face, the Deinonychus's eyes were particularly angry at this moment. It was here that I was hit by the counterattack of those two damn Thunder Beasts, and a hole was almost punched in my body. Until now, his heart is still full of anger, but this secret realm will not exist for long. Before long, this place will be completely destroyed by himself, and the place of inheritance will finally appear in the world. As for the two of them, they are definitely not my opponents. In the end, everything will fall into my hands. At this point, he couldn't help but burst into laughter, and the look in his eyes became even more greedy and excited. However, before he could continue speaking, many small gargoyles suddenly appeared nearby. Those things made him look even more confused at this moment, and he looked at the gargoyles in front of him with a strange face. He was a little confused as to why these things suddenly appeared here, and what was the main reason why they were here. Could it be that the vampire was ready to have a good communication with me? That's right for a strong man like him. What the hell are the Blood Clan? In his mind, they are just trash like vampires. After roaring at the things below that came from nowhere, he said with gritted teeth and a ferocious look, "Where are you from, and what does your master want you to do?" The disdain in his eyes became more and more obvious, but accompanied by his words. He saw those little things starting to climb up continuously on the spot, and then crawled to his side. Before he could react, it was almost the next second. Some gargoyles began to eat his body. Chapter 255, Fighting Birds Are Unbelievable. Followed by the next moment, looking at the painful areas on its body, the Deinonychus's expression quickly became hideous and incredible. He looked at the gargoyles around him with an incredible look on his face, filled with anger. Flames were spewing out of its mouth, about to burn the surrounding gargoyles to ashes on the spot. What the hell were these things? Could it be that the damned vampire dared to be his enemy? How could he dare to do that? He was a dignified crocodile bird. His status was much stronger than his. How could a tiny vampire dare to be his enemy? How audacious, how audacious. Fire, lightning, and flames. The moment the flame burst out, The surrounding gargoyles couldn't even withstand it for a second and were turned into ashes on the spot. However, at the same time, just as he was spitting out the flame operation skill the next second, at this time Su Lin suddenly appeared with several people beside him. The first to appear was naturally the Thunder Beast couple. The two looked at each other, and the power in their hands seemed even more ferocious. The violent thunder running at the same time made the power of the two people 1 + 1 2, and they rushed towards the direction of the guy in front of them. The surging and terrifying aura completely covered everything around it almost instantly, followed by a tremendous force. The monstrous terror was shocking, especially the immense power, which brought an unimaginable shock to people's hearts. Before the Deinonychus could react, the surrounding power completely covered him in an instant, followed by an even more violent and overbearing terror. The brilliant thunder struck directly on the wound on his body. After being hit hard, the Deinonychus crocodile bird immediately let out a miserable cry, but it soon recovered and covered its entire body with its wings. Then the Deinonychus crocodile bird looked around fiercely. It seemed like a roar that spread ferociously in all directions. He stared with wide eyes at the direction that was attacking him, and paused at the Thunder Beast couple. Then a roar came out of his mouth again. "How dare you come out?" The next moment, the crocodile bird was seen flying off the ground, and then rushing towards the Thunder Beast couple. This scene made everyone's face change drastically, especially the vampires at this moment. They can all feel the overwhelming impact of the terrifying claw crocodile bird. Now, the boundless power rushing over is like the arrival of the god of death. However, Su Lin's expression did not change at all, and there was still a sharp look in his eyes. "Use Thunderbolt on the little telegraph. At the same time you use Sword Dance. I'll use imprisonment to keep it in place later. And I'll have to ask you two to use more powerful skills later, and make sure to kill him here." As Su Lin spoke, his hair fluttered, and at the same time the wind was howling above his head. There is a sense of vastness and boundlessness all over the body. Feeling the aura of Su Lin, the others also nodded. Immediately afterwards, a bright light flashed in Su Lin's hand, and he went straight towards the direction of the Deinonychus. Almost at the next moment, the Thunder Beast couple also began to circulate thunder all over their bodies. The attacks from both sides instantly landed on the Deinonychus. Although Deinonychus is at the peak of B+, his current situation is already very critical. After all, his body was severely injured, and he could not avoid so many attacks at all. Within a few seconds, it was injured by Su Lin and the Leshu couple, and blood was gushing out of its body. "Ouch, tilde. The Deinonychus crocodile bird let out a miserable cry in pain, but was controlled by Su Lin the next moment. Roar! At the same time, the Thunder Beast couple roared, holding lightning and rushing forward, fiercely striking the alligator bird with its claws, looking like they were ready to fight to the death. Boom tilde, boom tilde, boom tilde. Suddenly, explosions sounded in the sky. Flames, thunder, and all kinds of chaotic energies intertwined together, causing the entire area to fall into chaos. Good opportunity. Seeing this, Su Lin's eyes suddenly lit up, and then he saw him lightly standing on tiptoe, and his figure instantly disappeared from the ground. Immediately afterwards, he came to the back of the Deinonychus crocodile, stretched out his arms, clenched them into fists, and hit the wound on the back of the Deinonychus crocodile hard. Thunder is violent. That's right, take advantage of his weakness to kill him. Now the guy in front of him has no chance to defend himself at all. Su Lin took the opportunity and used an extremely brutal force to hit the guy in front of him hard. Doesn't he believe that this guy can get away? The surging and terrifying thunder seemed to stir up a sense of vastness in the next moment, especially the boundless and dazzling power, which brought an unimaginable shock to people's hearts. At the same time, banged, Su Lin's attack directly caused the wound to split open, and blood gushed out of the wound instantly, causing the surrounding temperature to drop sharply. Ouch tilde. The severe pain caused the Deinonychus to wail, and then it flapped its wings frantically trying to escape. Bang tilde. How could Su Lin let it escape? He immediately restrained it and kicked it hard on the back. This kick caused the Deinonychus to completely lose its balance, and its huge body suddenly tilted and fell to the side. Boom tilde. Accompanied by a loud bang, the Deinonychus fell heavily to the ground, raising a lot of dust and breaking many nearby trees. And all this was just the beginning. The next moment, there was a puff sound, and Su Lin directly drew out the long knife from his waist and stabbed it towards the eyes of the Deinonychus with a thunderous light. The eyeballs of the Deinonychus shattered instantly, and scarlet blood flowed out, staining the ground red. This move caused the Deinonychus to howl again. The wound on its body became deeper, and the blood flowed more profusely. Su Lin took advantage of the victory and pursued the enemy, with lightning in his hand, constantly attacking the front in the direction of the Deinonychus crocodile bird. Crack, crack, and the other side. With the roar, the alligator bird seemed even more violent, and as his eyes were smashed on the spot, his aura became even more twisted and vast. He roared and attacked Su Lin again. Swoosh, 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 tilde. The Deinonychus crocodile bird moved very quickly and arrived in front of Su Lin in the blink of an eye. Then it swung its sharp claws and pointed directly at Su Lin's throat. He didn't even care about the attacks from the Thunder Beast couple beside him. After all, he just wanted to kill Su Lin, the bastard who dared to be his enemy. It seemed to have identified Su Lin and continued to pounce on him. Bang, 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 tilde. However, Su Lin did not give the Deinonychus a chance to get close. Instead, he glanced at the Thunder Beast couple and continued to use his strength. Thunder continued to block the Deinonychus. A series of attacks made the Deinonychus increasingly weak, and it finally fell to the ground dying after a wail. Chapter 256. You still want to pretend to be dead, then I will make you really die. Looking at the Deinonychus crocodile bird in front of me. If it were someone else, they would have relaxed long ago and even went up to check the guy's body. But Su Lin keenly noticed that something was wrong. If this thing really died, then why didn't I hear the announcement? This guy is really good at pretending to be dead. If I didn't have the National Destiny System, I would have almost fooled him. Looking carefully ahead, the sharp look in Su Lin's eyes became more and more obvious. Name Kongshan. Race Deinonychus. Grade B+. Psychic power 90,000 peak breakthrough. Talents Fire Element Mastery purple. Poison Mastery purple. Strong Physique blue. Bloodline Resurrection Defective Version purple. Skills Poison Swamp purple. LV6 Fire Poison Breath purple. LV8 Poison Tail Impact blue. LV9. Looking at the display of the guy in front of him, Su Lin could confirm it almost instantly. The Deinonychus was not seriously injured by their attack. He was pretending on purpose. And looking at the way he looks, he probably thinks he is pretending to be very convincing. After all, if this guy was injured, the surrounding panels would be revealed, and there should at least be a sign. Moreover, although this kind of beast may not be the top one, it at least has some abilities in the foggy world and can be considered a high-level ferocious beast. When facing the sudden attack from Su Lin and others just now, you didn't even react. Logically speaking, even if you are an ordinary ferocious beast, you will be on guard when facing the enemy's attack, let alone have any such and such thoughts. Faced with a sudden attack, you might just hide. But this guy didn't have any perception at all, and was hurt by Su Lin and the others. And he was beaten into that state on the spot. It was so straightforward, one could even say it was extremely simple. He was severely injured and killed on the spot. How is this possible? How can this guy be so simple? A huge ferocious beast that has been lurking here for so many years, and an existence that has been squatting here for 20 years, and still has the energy and ability to guard it. If you say that he was knocked down in an instant, no one would believe it. This guy is just pretending there, trying to lure them over. Su Lin thought in his heart. After thinking for a while, a sly smile appeared on his face. This guy wants to take advantage of the disguise to fool them, and then make a big meal of dumplings, right? In that case, Su Lin stood by, looking ahead calmly. Then he gently rubbed the little telegraph machine's head. I'll count to 123, and then we'll discharge together. Let's have a good time electrofishing together. As Su Lin said this, he looked at Lei Ling next to him. Didn't he want to pretend? Didn't he want to pretend there on purpose? Well then, today I will turn you into a dead bird. I want to see whether this guy will pretend or not under the contact of lightning around him. If you can't get up, I'll electrocute you. Listening to Su Lin's words, Lei Ling beside him was naturally very happy. He nodded, then looked forward, and then thunder quickly emerged from his hands. Lightning chain. Su Lin, the small telegraph machine, and the Lei Ling couple attacked at the same time, and the surging and terrifying thunder almost blocked the road. Then the crackling sound of thunder and lightning instantly rang out on the body of the Deinonychus crocodile bird. In the instant that the lightning gathered quickly, the red-clawed crocodile bird in front of him kept jumping on the spot. Along with the crackling sound, it also let out a scream of extreme pain in an instant. The originally hideous and terrifying appearance became extremely distorted in an instant. Roar tilde. The intense pain made the Deinonychus roar wildly. The roar almost covered the sky, and at the same time he stared at Su Lin with wide eyes. After all, he had never expected that his perfect hidden plan would be discovered so easily. For a moment, I was a little confused. However, before the Deinonychus could continue wailing, the lightning in front quickly gathered together. The power generated by Su Lin, the small telegraph machine, and the Lei Ling couple seemed even more turbulent and terrifying. The lightning that gathered at once almost stunned him on the spot. Looking at the fallen alligator bird, the smirk on Su Lin's face became more and more intense, and he even looked a little complacent. But soon his face darkened. I have to say that this Deinonychus crocodile bird has thick skin and tough flesh. Seeing that Su Lin and the others' attacks were becoming more and more fierce, he knew that he must have been discovered on the spot. How could this be any good? Su Lin stared with his eyes wide open, and his face became more and more distorted. Then he took a breath. A black breath with a hint of fire gushed out of his nostrils, and then he rushed towards Su Lin and the others. The lightning on his body seemed to be getting more powerful and violent at this moment. But this guy didn't care and seemed not to care about his injuries at all. Oh shit. Just now, the Deinonychus in front of him had endured the attacks from Su Lin, Lei Ling, and the little telegraph machine. But now it was like this. The little telegraph machine and Lei Ling were both dumbfounded. There was even a feeling of complete disbelief. Even if this Deinonychus crocodile bird has thick skin and strong flesh, it can't be so powerful. This is simply a joke. I can't even die. This is so unscientific. Several people were thinking about this in their hearts, and their eyes fell on Su Lin at the same time. This guy is so difficult to deal with, so how should we deal with him? It's impossible for them to just watch this guy like this. There was a bitter look on everyone's face. Only the smile on Su Lin's lips and the thoughtful look in his eyes at this moment seemed particularly obvious. Looking at how stiff the guy was when he stood up, and how his body suddenly twisted slightly. Su Lin was not blind, so he could naturally see the other party's injuries. It seems that their attack just now was not ineffective. The guy in front of them should have been caught by Su Lin and the others. It's just because of a temporary disguise, so this guy pretends that there is nothing wrong with him. Thinking of this, Su Lin's eyes slightly showed a smile. After thinking for a while, his eyes became brighter. The guy in front of me was stiff and obviously seriously injured. We were going to take advantage of his weakness to kill him. The attack Su Lin and the others launched just now was not fake. Why are you still afraid of him now? Keep going. After listening to Su Lin's words, Lei Ling beside him calmed down a little. After all, he didn't know what kind of magic Su Lin in front of him had. Anyway, when he looked in the direction of Su Lin, all the panic in his heart disappeared. What? P.S. It's October now. Happy National Day, belated blessing. Chapter 257, 1 + 1 is greater than 2, you can't kill me. Instead, there is a different sense of recognition and affirmation. He looked at his wife beside him, and then they both nodded. Let's do it. Thunder is violent. The two of them quickly circulated the power in their bodies, and at the same time, the small telegraph machine next to them also exerted its power in its hands. A turbulent and vast aura continuously gushed out from his palm. Feel the surging and different breath like the descent of Thor. Right now, the Deinonychus crocodile bird in front seemed to have sensed something, and the expression on its face became particularly ferocious. You are dead today. He twisted his cheek and then roared angrily. The voice was so ferocious that it made people feel unimaginably disgusted. Feeling the words coming out of this twisted guy's mouth, Su Lin narrowed his eyes slightly. Quite interesting. How dare you to be their enemy? Su Lin looked coldly at the guy in front of him. I really thought the lightning in their hands was fake. Looking at the whistling lightning, the guy did not retreat at all. Instead, he rushed towards them even more bravely. Fuck you, I just don't believe you can still resist. You chased my husband and me so hard that we had no way to go up to heaven or down to earth. We are not afraid of you now. On the other side, Lei Ling cursed angrily with gritted teeth. Immediately afterwards, surges of surging energy gushed out from his hands and poured towards the crocodile bird with terrifying claws. Sizzle, 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 sizzle. An extremely piercing thunder roared. Under the influence of the surging force of thunder and lightning, the wings of the alligator bird even began to smoke. My whole body felt as if it was electrocuted and was increasingly feeling charred. At the same time, I felt the guy who was almost twitching from the electric shock. At this moment, the smile on Su Lin's mouth became more obvious. As expected, this electric feeling is really great. Looking up and down at the swaying body of the alligator bird in front of him, Su Lin and the other's strength seemed even more violent and vast. However, in the next moment, the guy in front of him rushed directly towards Su Lin. This guy actually rushed towards me. Could it be that in his heart I am weaker than the people around me? Looking at the Deinonychus crocodile in front of him, Su Lin's expression did not look good as he thought that he was a soft persimmon. His eyes narrowed slightly, and then he hurriedly held Lei Ling in his arms. The lightning shield quickly takes shape. Then he directly blocked the attack from the Deinonychus. On the other side, the crocodile bird with whole claws looked at Su Lin and the aura of Lei Ling and the others, and the ferocious look on its face became more and more obvious. He clenched his teeth and stared at Su Lin with wide eyes in anger. However, even when it was attacked and knocked unconscious, it still possessed a certain degree of intelligence. It is obvious that continuing to be hostile to Su Lin and the others will not end well. After all, the means of attack of these guys are almost the same. The lightning power of 1 + 1 2 is almost paralyzed. So he had to find a loophole among these people, such as the damn female vampire who just drove the gargoyles away from attacking her. Thinking of this, his gaze suddenly paused at the side, focusing on the female vampire. Then his eyes began to flicker even more. When it was halfway through the attack, it changed direction, bypassed Lei Ling, and attacked the female vampire directly. Seeing that the alligator bird was approaching, the vampire was so frightened that he tried his best to dodge to the side in an attempt to escape. Just as she was about to run away, a dazzling silver light suddenly burst out from the tail of the alligator bird. With a swish sound, the silver light directly tore through the air, and with a sharp sound of breaking wind, it pierced through the chest of the vampire. Bright red blood instantly flowed out from the wound on her chest, causing her whole body to tremble. However, despite the severe pain, this guy's desire to survive was very strong, and his eyes were still staring straight in the direction of Su Lin and the others. At this moment, the pair of eyes were almost round, and their eyes were full of the desire to please and the expectation of survival. To be honest, she doesn't want to die, she wants to live well. Looking at the guy in front of me, on the other side, Su Lin's face couldn't help but become gloomy, and he looked at the guy in front of him with dissatisfaction in his eyes. He immediately began to summon his 4 younger brothers. Anyway, judging from the situation that the Terraclaw fought desperately, but still failed to kill the vampire, he is probably at the end of his strength now. Just one step away, and I would be beaten to death here. So after Su Lin looked him up and down for a while, the effect of the corner of his mouth became more and more obvious. Add to that the vampire just now, I'm afraid it won't be that easy to die. Obviously, he doesn't submit to himself. It would be better to let the vampires suffer first, and then I and the little telegraph machine will kill the crocodile bird first. Thinking of this, Su Lin cast another glance in the direction of Lei Ling and the others, and then decisively continued to attack. Sword dance, lightning chain. At this moment, all kinds of skills were surging forward like crazy. Under the influence of the surging light from Su Lin and others, the alligator bird in front of them was almost knocked unconscious on the spot. To be honest, his main purpose in capturing this vampire was to intimidate Su Lin and the others so that they would not dare to attack him. But who could have thought that Su Lin and the others would be so decisive? Did they just give up on this vampire clan? The lightning and the surging light around it were extremely overbearing, even giving people an unimaginable sense of deterrence. At this moment, the Deinonychus crocodile bird only felt a feeling of fear rising from its heart, staring ahead with eyes wide open. Then the panic look on his face became more obvious. No, he can't die, he has to live well. The inheritance was not obtained, and the breakthrough to a level was not achieved. How could I be killed so easily by these guys in front of me? You have to know that you are the top existence. I am a crocodile bird. He gritted his teeth and looked in the direction of Su Lin and the others. After a roar, he said in a very ferocious manner, "You can't kill me. If you kill me, you will die without a burial place." Looking at this guy's appearance, the lightning on Su Lin's body became even more ferocious and domineering. The vast thunder instantly rushed forward. Feel the incomparably domineering glow of thunder, reflected against the sky at this moment. At this moment, a proud look appeared on Su Lin's lips. Chapter 258, Begging for Mercy. It's no use begging for mercy. The guy in front of me started begging for mercy, thinking back to his arrogant look just now, and then looking at his current appearance. At this moment, Su Lin only felt a wave of angry and funny thoughts rising in his heart. Come to think of it, I was actually scared by such a thing before. He was almost amused by his own thoughts, and stared ahead with his eyes raised. Immediately afterwards, Su Lin couldn't help but laugh louder and louder. Thunder and lightning slowly gathered beneath his body. And at this moment, Su Lin was sitting on the power gathered by the thunder and lightning like the god of thunder. After taking a deep look at the Deinonychus in front of him, he raised his eyes and smiled. He looked calmly at the guy in front of him and continued speaking. "Why can't I kill you?" At this moment, Su Lin seemed to deliberately look at the guy in front of him, and then continued to speak. "Who do you think you are? Why should I not dare to kill you?" The sharp edge in Su Lin's eyes moved fiercely, and a domineering aura emanated from his body. The pervasive power seemed extremely terrifying, and he only raised his eyes. Almost in the next second, the resulting power went forward. The lightning spread and became the shape of a huge sword, as if the gods were punishing the world. Looking deeply at the Deinonychus in front of him, Su Lin smiled. "You have caused my little telegraph to suffer for so many years." Listening to Su Lin's words, the small telegraph machine on the other side couldn't help but curl its lips. While his lips were slightly pursed, a look of confusion appeared in his eyes. Although I don't know why Su Lin suddenly mentioned me, I listened to his words and looked at the person in front of me. For some reason, Zai Lei felt an inexplicable feeling of joy in his heart. Excitement, ecstasy, and an indescribable wave continuously surged from my heart. Looking at Su Lin's handsome face and the cold smile on his lips, the little telegraph machine raised its eyebrows and stared at Su Lin. For some reason, I felt that the person in front of me was particularly attractive. For my own sake, to avenge myself, and at the same time to put an end to my many years of escape. He couldn't help but clench his hands tightly, and at this moment Zai Lei's face was full of joy. Although Su Lin only spoke a few words lightly, they stirred up waves like a storm in Zai Lei's heart. Looking at Su Lin, and looking at the power around him that was driven by Su Lin and the Thunder Beast couple. At this moment, a look of panic appeared in the eyes of the Deinonychus crocodile bird. The aura brought by the surrounding power was so strong that even a top-level figure like the Deinonychus could not withstand it. He finally understood that this guy would never give in unless he killed him. "This damn little bastard. Do you really think you are easy to bully? And he wants to keep me here. He wants to kill me, but I am a Deinonychus crocodile bird, a top B+. She was very angry after spending so much time, energy, and strength to get to where she is today. At the same time, there is also a feeling of stumbling and falling into trouble. How is this possible? I must escape, and I also need to obtain enough resources to break through. After thinking of this, the fear that had originally filled his face disappeared in an instant and was replaced by a look of extreme resentment. This guy is just a B-level. Even if he is forced to this extent with the help of external forces, he still has a chance to turn the tables in the end. No matter how powerful those guys on the side are, can they be more powerful than me? Even if they have a little ability, so what? Just wait for yourself to continue to make breakthroughs. Just wait for yourself to achieve A. After he has stronger strength, no matter how many people there are, he will not be afraid. At worst, he can just pretend to surrender to them. So what? Besides, if he had stronger strength, these little gadgets in front of him would be just small things that he could destroy in minutes. Thinking of this, a hint of ferocity appeared on his originally terrified face. Then the expression on his face became increasingly gloomy, and his eyes widened and stared in the direction of Su Lin. Then he put on a flattering smile. He looked at Su Lin and the others cautiously, then continued speaking. "We can sign a contract, and I can become your slave. I am willing to surrender to you forever. If you ask me to go east, I will never go west. I can promise." He said this in a more flattering way. In this situation, Su Lin and the others were not stupid, and they were not blind to the guy's change of expression just now. Naturally, I noticed this change. Looking at the guy's face changing again and again, everyone present looked at each other. Although I don't know why, but I always feel a chill rising from my heart, inexplicably. I always have the urge to kill this guy in front of me right on the spot. But after the Lei Ling couple looked at each other, they lowered their eyes. After all, the biggest boss present was still Su Lin. No matter what, Su Lin has to nod his head first. And if you can have a B+ or even a level slave, it is no small matter. Thinking of this, everyone's eyes were all on Su Lin. Each one of them had a look of thought and curiosity. I want to know what Su Lin is going to do. At the same time, the little telegraph machine couldn't help but clench his hands. He wanted to say something but couldn't utter a word. He just stared at Su Lin with his eyes wide open, looking somewhat pitiful. The little telegraph machine is not stupid. It naturally knows the many benefits after signing the contract with this guy. If Su Lin used their combined strength to bind this guy to a contract, he might be able to make a good slave. By then, a B+ could even break through to the level. The impact it would bring would be so powerful that others could not imagine it. Following closely behind the little telegraph machine, his hands couldn't help but twist it tighter. He looked at Su Lin with clenched teeth, and after 2 seconds of silence, he couldn't help but look up in his direction. Then he continued cautiously, "If you really want to subdue this guy, you can, but you must be careful." Listening to the words coming out of the small telegraph machine, Su Lin looked at the little guy in front of him, and a little confusion appeared on his cute face. After thinking for a moment, Su Lin naturally knew what they were thinking. He gently rubbed the little telegraph machine's head, and a smile appeared on his face. Chapter 259, Let's Destroy It First. Looking at the smile on Su Lin's face, at this moment, the look in the eyes of this guy in front of him seemed to be more relaxed. Since these people started to laugh, does it mean that they will not kill yourself? He quickly lowered his head, not daring to look at the score any longer. He lowered his head carefully and spoke in a very flattering manner. "If possible, no matter what you say or do, I will have no opinion." This guy is determined to please Su Lin to the utmost. Looking at the guy in front of him, Su Lin looked at him carefully for a while, and then his eyes became increasingly cold and disdainful. At the same time, I was looking at the guy in front of me like this. At this moment, a playful smile appeared on Su Lin's lips, as if he had thought of something. Then he waved his hand. "Well, in fact, although I want to recruit you as my subordinate, you are still the enemy of the little telegraph machine after all. You just said you can do whatever I want to you, so let's put it this way. For the sake of the electric attack, I think you should die sooner." Use the gentlest words to say the most terrifying sentences. As Su Lin finished speaking, the thunder behind him became louder, and with it came even more terrifying thunder power. Even the Deinonychus didn't react. Boom, sizzle, sizzle. Along with the sound of thunder and the continuous spread of the power of thunder, the entire battlefield instantly burst into an incomparably dazzling light. The piercing sound of electric current and the heart-pounding thunder. The already severely injured Crocodile Crow was now struggling and wailing in the lightning. The shrill screams instantly resounded throughout the entire battlefield. The Deinonychus crocodile bird fell to the ground, twitching all over. The original body had already been blown apart. Although he was not completely blown to pieces, blood still flowed out from his whole body uncontrollably. Looking at this scene, everyone was stunned. The Blood Clan Viscount standing by seemed particularly incredulous. Although the Deinonychus crocodile bird was seriously injured, it was not so easy to deal with. He didn't expect that Su Yuan and the others were so powerful. Moreover, his method and intention were so decisive that the Deinonychus crocodile bird next to him was about to surrender, but he was still so concise and clear. Looks of shock and disbelief followed. Immediately afterwards, an inexplicable feeling of fear spread from his heart. You know, Su Lin could do what even such a powerful alligator bird said. Then, if he was impatient in the slightest, would he be killed on the spot? To be honest, I felt more and more frightened and terrified. However, Su Lin's offensive did not stop there. At the moment the words fell, swish, Su Yuan just swung his arm, and the thunder that was originally floating in the air quickly gathered into a huge sword, which instantly crossed the void. Directly activate the thunder storm and cooperate with the surrounding thunder and others. Just listen to the next moment. Crack! The thunder sword pierced through the neck of the Terraclaw crocodile bird and cut off his head. It did not stop, but went straight into the land next to it until it disappeared. A series of rumbling sounds, mixed with the sound of the land being destroyed by thunder, reached the ears directly, feeling the land in front of me being split hundreds of meters apart. Looking at this horrifying scene, the vampires at this moment felt a chill running through their bodies. After all, among the people present, let's not talk about Zai Lei, who has always been following Su Lin. Now the relationship between Nazile's parents and Su Lin is quite harmonious. Only I feel like an outsider here. They have such a good relationship, but I am just standing here stupidly. Was he deliberately targeting me? At this moment, the look on his face seemed to be getting more and more frightened. But just as he was horrified, the thunderclouds in the sky changed again. A series of flickering silver snakes kept moving above the thunderclouds. And then, a bolt of lightning even thicker than the previous one suddenly struck down. In full view of everyone, he chopped down fiercely at the already broken body of the alligator bird. It sounds slow, but in fact it all happens in the blink of an eye, catching you off guard. Bang! Puff! A muffled sound was heard, Then the crocodile bird was seen to pause, and then it fell to the ground after its body completely turned into charcoal. A hole several feet large was smashed on the ground, and there was no movement for a long time, although he really killed the guy in front of him without any hesitation. He didn't even respond to the guy's begging for mercy. He just killed him as if he was a random animal. This ability, this power, and this chilling. Just when the vampire was completely panicked, Su Lin suddenly came to her side and killed the alligator bird in front of him. Then his eyes fell on her. Looking at the fear that could not be concealed on that beautiful face, Su Lin gently patted the other person's shoulder. However, it would have been better if she hadn't been filmed. This film made her jump 3 meters high in an instant, and she wished she could turn into a bat and escape on the spot. He looked at Su Lin in panic, and his pupils were filled with panic. He looked so cautious, like a frightened rabbit, not daring to move even a little bit. Su Lin was stunned by this guy's sudden move. I looked at the person in front of me in confusion. Su Lin was a little slow to react. He felt as if he was going to eat her. Is it necessary to be so scared? Su Lin is not a cannibal. With a helpless look on his face, he was about to continue talking, but found that the other party had retreated to the side of Lei Ling and the others. This is true, and it scared the vampire in front of him. Otherwise, she would never be so frightened and timid. Su Lin looked at the rabbit-like creature in front of him with curiosity, and the expression on his face became even more puzzled. At this moment, the small telegraph machine that had been observing this guy on the side seemed to understand something. He came to Su Lin and started muttering in a low voice. I guess this girl must be afraid of you. She was scared. Staring at the small telegraph machine, Su Lin was a little confused. Do I look like a bad person? Why are you a little scared of me? Su Lin glanced at Lei Ling and the small telegraph machine. That's not right, I'm fine. Chapter 260, The Hidden Problem Comes to the Surface. Su Lin moved closer to the other person. As he got closer, the guy in front of him visibly trembled. Those originally frightened eyes were now filled with fear and panic. This is obviously scary. Are you so scared of me? I'm not a bad person and I won't eat you. Is that so serious? Su Lin's expression was a little confused. What is the name of this vampire? After all, he had used so many of the other party's gargoyles, and Su Lin still felt a little guilty. After looking at the other party and thinking for a moment, Su Lin directly opened the other party's panel. Oh, Ariel. Looking at Ariel's eyes full of fear, Su Lin couldn't help but twitch his mouth at this moment. Just as he was about to speak, he blocked it back. After all, judging from her eyes and appearance, it would be nonsense to say that she is not afraid of me. After looking at Ariel with a slightly helpless look, Su Lin continued speaking. Don't worry, I won't kill you, as long as you do your job seriously. As he spoke, a calm look appeared in Su Lin's eyes. He smiled and comforted Ariel beside him, then turned his gaze towards Lei Ling and the others. Now that this guy has been killed, what are you going to do? In fact, if Su Lin were to say, he really wanted to recruit this couple under his command. After all, the two people in front of him are also awesome figures in the B+ level. If you really think about it, if we can get these two people under our control, that would be really awesome. How many B-level subordinates do you have now? Every one of them has a B grade, which is already extremely awesome. Not to mention a B+. Thinking of this, the smile on Su Lin's face became more obvious. At the same time, on the other side, listening to Su Lin's words, a look of embarrassment and thought flashed across the faces of Lei Ling and the others. To be honest, fearing that the crocodile-clawed bird would hunt them here, the two of them hid in this secret place for nearly a decade. If it weren't for this guy, they wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable state over the years. But now, after killing this guy, both of them felt a little confused. What should they do now? Where to go next? This Deinonychus crocodile bird is dead. Just as the couple was thinking about it, Lei Ling's gaze suddenly fell on Su Lin and Zai Lei. The eyes that originally seemed a little confused suddenly became a little brighter. Even if it's for my daughter, I have to follow you. As he said this, the guy smiled directly at the small telegraph machine. Seeing his father, whom he hadn't seen for many years, looking so greasy, a look of dissatisfaction flashed across the little telegraph machine's face. After looking at Lei Ling with disdain, he hugged Su Lin's hand. Looking at the interaction between his daughter and Su Lin, Lei Ling's eyes instantly widened, and he looked at Su Lin in disbelief, with an expression of disbelief and a little shock in his eyes. He had never thought that his daughter would be like this with Su Lin. Were they so close? How old was his daughter? The lightning on his body burst out instantly, and at the same time the next moment. The little telegraph machine mother standing next to him suddenly smiled and patted Lei Ling on the head. After looking at Su Lin carefully for a while, a happy smile of a mother-in-law looking at her satisfied son-in-law appeared on her face. Speaking of which, this secret place might be useful to you, but you have to be careful with the things inside. As he spoke, a strange kind of heavy look appeared on his face, as if there was a story behind this. Looking at the other person's appearance, Su Lin turned his gaze to Lei Ling again, but saw that his expression of dissatisfaction with Su Lin had disappeared a little, although there was still a hint of coldness in his eyes. But after his eyes paused for a while, he nodded. Then he continued to speak. This secret realm is not ordinary. Compared to the outer area you just passed by, the deeper area is the dark place in the mysterious realm. Even my husband and I haven't explored much here. If you enter the secret realm, you can get a lot of benefits inside, but once you are trapped in it, it will be troublesome. As he spoke, Lei Ling's eyes became more and more nervous. Looking at the look in the other person's eyes, Su Lin thought for a moment. It seems like there is really something wrong in this secret realm. Su Lin frowned and looked at Lei Ling and asked, "What's going on?" Looking at Su Lin's eyes, Lei Ling knew that the other party had already noticed his warning. So after thinking deeply in his mind for a moment, he continued speaking. Deep in the secret realm, there is an inexplicable darkness. It is because that place has been attracting the Deinonychus that he has not left here for so many years. As he spoke, Lei Ling danced with his hands, clenched them, and his pupils dilated slightly. There seemed to be a hint of vigilance and panic in his eyes. After 2 seconds of silence, he continued. My wife and I fled here together. Following Lei Ling's words, everyone seemed to slowly return to the time when Lei Ling and his team had a feud with the Deinonychus. When the Deinonychus crocodile suddenly attacked, they were forced to fight with the Deinonychus crocodile for a while and then flee. Because the Deinonychus was very powerful, and it was obvious that the couple were no match for that guy back then. So I don't know how much effort I put in along the way, but I was able to barely escape the other party's clutches. As Lei Ling spoke, he showed some of the wounds on his body and then continued. Most of the zombies on my body were caused by him, after I became enemies with that devil's claw crocodile bird. This guy was really cruel. He almost killed me on the spot. As he spoke, Lei Ling spat fiercely in the direction of the corpse of the Deinonychus crocodile bird. While lightning and thunder were involuntarily bursting out of his body, they were also pressing towards the corpse. There was a crackling sound, mixed with waves of aroma that sounded like barbecue. As the smell rushed into his nose, Su Lin's eyes paused again at this moment. It seems that Lei Ling really hates the Deinonychus, otherwise he would not have done such a thing. But it's normal. Listening to Lei Ling's words, looking at the other person's face full of anger, Su Lin calmed the other person down a little. Then he continued to speak. What happened next? Is there something wrong? After all, he is just a listener now. What he needs to know is not the pursuit process between Lei Ling and his team and the Deinonychus crocodile bird back then, but what is happening here. Chapter 261, Complete Outbreak, Expansion of the Secret Realm. At the same time, looking at Su Lin's appearance, Lei Ling was silent for 2 seconds, then looked around, as if he was worried about something. Then, after looking around carefully for a while, his expression finally relaxed a little. As if he knew that the thing he was worried about was not around, he looked in the direction of Su Lin and the others and spoke. Later, I fled here with my wife. You probably know what happened next, but when we first discovered this secret place, we were extremely happy. As he spoke, Lei Ling pointed in the direction of the secret realm behind him and continued. This medicine can help my husband and I improve our spiritual power in a very short period of time. This genius spiritual treasure can help us reach the B+ level in such a short period of time. I think you should know what kind of important value it contains. That's right. Listening to Lei Ling's words, Su Lin nodded. After all, just as the other party said, the value contained here can be said to be top-notch. You know, it's already extremely difficult for beasts like them to improve. Otherwise, how could the guys outside spend so much time and effort for so many years and still be only B+? If you say that the Deinonychus crocodile bird is not strong and has no great abilities, how could it possibly find their thunder beasts? How could they possibly attack them? It is even more impossible to have that kind of strength. At that time, the couple was even forced to flee in a panic with no way out. But such an existence has become the same level as them, as a couple, in just over a decade. Although both are B+, the other party is at the top, just one step away from moving forward again. But he didn't spit it out until he died. On the other hand, the Lei Ling couple had actually seen how powerful A was back then. Listening to the words coming out of Lei Ling and his wife, Su Lin was slightly stunned at this moment. His eyes were filled with confusion, and he only dared to look carefully at the two people in front of him. If they were not talking about the same information, Su Lin would have suspected that this was a joke. According to Lei Ling, in the depths of the secret realm there is not only inheritance, but also an a-level existence hidden. That person is a person who can change the world with his movements. He is very powerful. His abilities are also extraordinary. If you really count it, they haven't been sleeping well over the years. On the one hand, he was worried about the crocodile bird outside the secret realm that wanted to enter the secret realm. On the other hand, I have always been wondering if there is something wrong here. He kept thinking in his mind, while Lei Ling continued to speak. I've been in there before. This sentence once again shocked Su Lin to the core. He looked at the guy in front of him in some disbelief and stared at him in a daze. What the hell, can this guy please say it again? What is he talking about? There is a dark force deep in the secret realm, and it is very terrifying. The most important thing is that Lei Ling and his team had been in there before. Su Lin was thinking in his heart at the same time. With the death of the crocodile bird, the direction of the secret realm began to tremble rapidly. A gray-brown force continued to emerge and began to expand the defenses outside the secret realm like bubbles in boiling water. The inexplicable power seemed particularly strange, and there was a sense of distortion. Looking at the breath coming from the direction of the secret realm behind him, Su Lin narrowed his eyes slightly. Something is wrong. The direction of the secret realm is wrong. There seems to be some kind of power inside that is breaking through to the outside. If it were the Su Lin of the past, he might not be able to see the reason. But now he is extremely sensitive to these energies. He frowned, carefully looked at the power behind him, and clenched his teeth as he felt the dark aura growing stronger. Then he turned around and grabbed the hands of the little telegraph machine and spoke in a very fast tone. "Get behind me." As he spoke, Su Lin stood in front of the telegraph machine and the others like a tall mountain. Immediately afterwards, a force emerged again, and the power of the shield of light and the power of thunder complemented each other. Shield of light, lightning chain, imprisonment. Looking at the sudden burst of power in front of him, Su Lin's eyes did not change in any way. Still with a sharp edge, it injected a powerful aura directly forward. Then the atmosphere around the secret realm began to darken. In the battle with thunder, it seemed as if it was struggling for control with some kind of force. Immediately afterwards, a flash of lightning appeared in front of him. Su Lin's tall body almost blocked all his women, and he also took care of Ariel by the way. The surging force broke the darkness in front of him on the spot, but at this time, Su Lin keenly discovered that something was wrong. He once again mobilized his strength and forced his aura forward. Then the light began to dispel the surrounding darkness, but Su Lin suddenly discovered. The sky around me changed color. That's right, he was still in the foggy world before, but now the scenes around him are a little unfamiliar to him. Where is this? Where have I come to? I was in the foggy world just now, and now I am. Doubts popped up in my mind one after another. And at this moment, Lei Ling and the others also used the light of thunder to break the forces from all directions. Then the lightning and thunder from several people slowly gathered together. Lei Ling spoke while acting as a temporary purple sun above the dark sky. This is what I'm saying. Every once in a while, a force will erupt here and forcibly corrupt everything around it. Lei Ling pointed forward as he spoke. The light ahead cannot reach the place shrouded in darkness. An invisible light curtain of pale black completely enveloped the sky. No wonder everything around here seems so dark. The scope of the secret realm has actually expanded. If it was a small secret realm before, now it has instantly swallowed up the valley and its surroundings. And this place also gives people an inexplicable feeling of coolness. Su Lin frowned and looked around. He was thinking in his mind, while Lei Ling beside him was acting as commentator. Every once in a while, a burst of dark power will erupt here, and the source of the power is undetectable. And now we are trapped here. Lei Ling shook his head and looked forward. A strange feeling flashed across his face. Chapter 262, The Problem Here. But if you say how scared he is, that's not the case. But the look in his eyes was filled with a bit of confusion and surprise, mixed with curiosity. After all, Lei Ling had thought about it many times, and intended to go in and see what was going on inside. But unfortunately, it seems that they are not very willing to accept his arrival. At this moment, Lei Ling just sighed slightly. Although he didn't know why the power in this secret realm suddenly erupted this time, He had a vague feeling in his heart. The thing inside is probably not just for the purpose of explosion. The power contained in this secret realm is probably more terrifying than I imagined. As for how terrifying and powerful it was, that was not something he could describe. Lei Ling was silent for 2 seconds. Looking at the darkness around him, he looked in the direction of Su Lin and spoke. That thing inside is not that simple. He was just using words of warning to express his vigilance against the thing inside. And listening to the other party's words, Su Lin raised his eyes slightly, then nodded and spoke. I know. As he said this, he looked ahead and thought for a moment. Judging from the darkness around them, the things inside had already prepared to block them here. Moreover, the body of the Deinonychus crocodile bird in front had also been affected to a certain extent at this moment. In the area blocked by the black fog, the body of the Deinonychus crocodile bird disappeared the fastest. If my guess is correct, I'm afraid that guy has disappeared without a trace. Su Lin's eyes were increasingly filled with a thoughtful look, and the color in his eyes seemed sharp and carried a bit of different thoughts. He subconsciously used a ray of light, accompanied by petals, to gradually push away the surrounding black mist. The black mist was forcibly pushed away by Su Lin, but at the same time it seemed to be subconsciously attracted by some will. What's going on? Feeling the power around him, Su Lin frowned. Light pattern wings. He subconsciously activated his skills, and light quickly appeared behind him. One strange pattern after another seemed to be spreading in all directions, accompanied by magical power, under the influence of the vast light. 2 huge wings appeared behind Su Lin, following closely. The light began to break through all the power from all directions. Under the influence of that vast light, at this moment, Su Lin could feel that the light around him seemed to be expanding further and further, along with the influence of the power in his body. Under the dispersal of the power of light, the aura in front seemed a little stronger. At the same time, the invisible power of light began to spread rapidly. Sure enough, after dispersing the force in the direction of the crocodile bird's body, his body, which had originally fallen to the ground, had disappeared in an instant. Instead, there is an invisible breath. As it permeates the front, it gives people an inexplicable sense of weirdness. What on earth is going on? Why is it like this? Su Lin frowned and looked carefully at the scene in front of him. Lei Ling and others who followed closely also discovered that something was wrong with the scene in front of them. The little telegraph machine ran over first, looked at the scene in front of it and couldn't help but ask a question. What's going on? That guy was here just now, why is he gone now? Listening to the words on the small telegraph machine, Su Lin slowly came to the place he had just been to, then walked to the front and stood aside. He carefully looked at the scene in front of him, frowning at the same time. He leaned down and looked in the direction where the guy in front of him disappeared. Followed closely. Thought, silence, and curiosity flashed directly from his eyes. That's right, there is still something underground that disappeared when that guy fell to the ground just now. If I'm not mistaken, he had indeed been here just now, and it was obvious that he had not left on his own. What dragged that guy away just now? Su Lin was thinking in his heart, and before he could say a few words, it happened almost in the next moment. A black force suddenly rose up and attacked Su Lin in the face at an extremely fast speed. Even Su Lin almost didn't react, but soon Su Lin saw what the thing looked like. Still want to attack me? A hint of disdain flashed in his eyes, and he reacted extremely quickly. Imprisonment shackles. Wave slash. He dodged backwards, looked in the direction of the guy in front of him, and saw a pair of restraining shackles. He quickly moved forward with the power of the wave slash. What followed was a terrible howl and a crackling sound on the ground. Feeling the sound coming from the front, Su Lin frowned and looked ahead carefully. After narrowing his eyes slightly, the expression on his face became more curious. All he could see just now was a tentacle, but he couldn't figure out what it was for a while. At this moment, Su Lin had a thoughtful look in his eyes. He frowned and looked ahead, becoming more curious. However, although Su Lin was not afraid in his heart, he could not help but be cautious. As he moved forward again like the god of thunder, lightning directly permeated everything around him. The surging thunder seemed to be Su Lin's protective color, and also seemed to be the soldier who charged first, completely dispersed the surging and terrifying black fog around. I'm not that stupid. Su Lin looked ahead coldly, a hint of disdain flashing across his face. After all, he was not stupid. He would not be stupid enough to rush directly into the darkness. Even if he wanted to rush, he had to be careful. Otherwise, if you are surrounded by the enemy, it would be better not to charge. The purple light brought by the lightning set off a domineering impact in front. Under Su Lin's surging and vast aura, the surrounding fog seemed to be greatly affected and began to retreat again and again. Just as Su Lin started to drive away the black fog around him, Sophia, the small telegraph, and the Lei Ling couple did not stop at all. Sophia's light illuminated the surroundings, and the small telegraph machine, as well as the thunder of the Lei Ling couple, instantly joined Su Lin's skill attack. Under the influence of his fierce power, one after another, the surrounding fog was actually weakening irresistibly, and part of it was faintly dispersed. Immediately afterwards, Su Lin turned around and looked at the small telegraph machine behind him. While his burning eyes stayed on Sophia and the little telegraph machine, he gently touched the little telegraph machine's head. Chapter 263, You seem to know something. Don't think that if you please me, I will like you. Ariel was still a little arrogant at this time. Looking at the guy in front of him like this, Su Lin couldn't help but smile. Just wait and see how I deal with you when I get back. As Su Lin spoke, his eyes became sharper. He stared at the scene in front of him with calm eyes and then frowned. Although the black fog around them has been cleared temporarily, there is still a very important problem. What else is there in the power of the mist? The thing that just attacked them. Su Lin raised his hand and gradually attracted the power in front of him. The lightning turned into something like a chain that locked the front. Then he saw a claw that looked a little strange. That's right, was it a claw that attacked me just now? Su Lin frowned, and his expression became even more confused. This claw looks a bit like bird claws. The small telegraph machine nearby was the first to react. He raised his hand and continued. Listening to the words on the small telegraph machine, Su Lin couldn't help but smile. Yes, yes, you are the smartest. This is the bird's claw. As he spoke, he gently touched the head of the small telegraph machine. It was definitely a bird's claw. But what kind of bird is this? What is the use of this bird claw? What can you do with it? The look in Su Lin's eyes became more and more indifferent. A look of thought and curiosity gradually appeared in his eyes. However, before he could continue speaking, almost in the next moment, it's a bit like an evolved Deinonychus crocodile bird. A sudden voice reached Su Lin's ears again. He frowned and looked to the side. What the hell? He didn't quite understand who had said that just now and what did. The evolved Deinonychus crocodile bird mean? Could someone explain it more clearly? There was a curious look in his eyes. At the same time, Lei Ling beside him suddenly spoke again. This looks like a grade, a Deinonychus claw. After they achieve a level, their claws will undergo certain changes. Absorbing too much dark power will cause some twisted lines to appear between their claws. Before he could continue speaking, Ariel on the other side spoke in shock. So what you mean is that the monster that just appeared here was an 11 monster, and it was a Deinonychus crocodile bird. Panic, shock, and confusion quickly burst out from her eyes. Although this guy just said that he was loyal to Su Lin, it is unlikely that anyone with a bit of common sense would believe it. If the one in the darkness was an 11 alligator bird, this guy would probably have escaped long ago. Looking at the fear in Ariel's extremely panicked eyes, Su Lin didn't wait for him to continue speaking. Lei Ling on the side looked at the guy with disdain and continued to shake his head. When did I say that the owner behind this thing is a Class A Deinoceratops? Looking at Lei Ling's appearance, Ariel was about to retort. But at this moment, Su Lin continued to speak. All right, stop arguing, let's just talk it out slowly. As he spoke, a thoughtful look flashed across Su Lin's eyes. After taking a close look at the person next to him, he spoke. In my opinion, the owner behind this claw is long gone, so you don't need to panic. When saying this, Su Lin's gaze was still focused on Ariel's face beside him. Listening to his words, Ariel couldn't help but twitch her lips, as if she was looking the top scholar up and down. How can you be sure that the owner behind this is dead? Listening to Ariel's words, Su Lin shook his head. Look at this claw, it's rotten. Do you believe it if you say it's alive? After these words were spoken, Ariel beside her finally calmed down a little. The fear in his eyes was also reduced by a lot, and looking at this guy like this, Su Lin shook his head and continued to look at the person next to him. Although the owner behind this is very likely dead, we can't let our guard down. Who knows if there are other things here? And a dead monster can actually move. This is obviously not normal. While Su Lin was thinking in his heart, he touched his chin again, with a different kind of thought and curiosity in his eyes. Looking at Su Lin's eyes, everyone present also had a touch of surprise and caution on their faces. That's right, just as Su Lin said, the owner behind this is dead, but it can still be here. If you say there is no problem, who would believe it? And if this thing was the one that attacked Su Lin and the others just now, it would be even more surprising. How could a dead thing attack people? Ariel beside her seemed to have a thoughtful look on her face, as if after thinking for a while, he thought of something, and an extremely ugly look instantly appeared on his face. Looking at Ariel's appearance, Su Lin was looking at everyone after all. So when the other person's cheek changed, he quickly noticed Ariel's eyes. He couldn't help but frown at Ariel's rapidly changing expression. It seems that Ariel knows something, otherwise the other party would not be like this, with his eyes changing so quickly. Know what? Su Lin came to Ariel's side and patted his hands gently, but it would have been fine if he hadn't patted. But the sudden pat scared Ariel in front of me so much that she almost jumped up on the spot. Looking at Su Lin's cautious appearance, he seemed even more panicked and frightened. At the same time, before Ariel could continue speaking, Su Lin smiled, looked Ariel up and down for a while, and then asked, "Tell me what happened. Do you know anything?" Hearing Su Lin's question suddenly, Ariel was obviously panicked. He looked in Su Lin's direction with a look of surprise, shook his head repeatedly, and lowered his eyes. However, before Ariel could continue speaking, Su Lin raised his eyes again. "Don't lie to me, otherwise, I don't think you want to know how it ends." The look in Su Lin's pupils made her feel a sense of fear at this moment. Those solemn and dignified eyes seemed to be filled with threats towards him. "I'm really panicking." Ariel took a cautious step back, but in the next moment, there was no way to retreat. He could only look at Su Lin pitifully, and then continued speaking. "I don't know, I really don't know anything," Ariel said as she took a deep breath in fear. Chapter 264, I really don't know. Then I'll electrocute you. At this moment, Ariel involuntarily took 2 steps back, her face full of panic. It seemed as if he was about to trip over in the next second. Looking at Ariel's appearance, Su Lin couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, frowning at the guy in front of him. Then he smiled. He touched his chin and then spoke. "Interesting, but I don't think you look like you know nothing. If you really don't know anything, you wouldn't have such an expression, right?" As he spoke, Su Lin raised his eyebrows, looked carefully at the person in front of him, and then continued speaking. "I'll ask you again, do you know something?" The plain words are full of leisurely feelings. What emanated from that indifferent face was a domineering aura that made people sweat all over. Listening to Su Lin's words, he looked at the other person's slightly raised brows. For some reason at this moment, Ariel felt increasingly panicked. He took a step back cautiously and looked at Su Lin in front of him, not daring to say a word. "I don't know, I really don't know anything." Listening to the other party's words, Su Lin looked at the person in front of him again. After thinking for a moment, he narrowed his eyes. Then he couldn't help but speak. "If you really don't know anything, then I can only throw you out." Hearing this, Ariel's eyes widened as if her hair stood on end, and then she looked at Su Lin in disbelief. "Why?" Ariel had a look of panic on her face. However, Su Lin folded his hands across his chest, looked up and down at the person in front of him, and continued speaking. "You can't do anything, so why are you still here? It would be better to throw you out and use you as bait." As Su Lin spoke, his eyes narrowed slightly, and the look in his pupils was even more indifferent. Looking at Ariel's appearance, on the other side at this moment, there was still a hint of coldness in Su Lin's eyes as he continued to speak. "This is your only chance. You must think it through, otherwise." Su Lin smiled more calmly, but listened to his words. At this moment, Ariel couldn't help but feel her whole body trembling. In front of Su Lin, I seemed not worth mentioning at all. He looked at Su Lin with some panic and fear. At this moment, Ariel's face became even more frightened. However, before he could continue speaking, Su Lin raised his eyes, and a flash of lightning turned into a chain and grabbed the person in front of him as if he didn't care at all. Then in Ariel's frightened eyes, the light with purple lightning directly pulled her on the spot. The action, which seemed like dragging a dead pig, frightened her so much that she started screaming. A full sense of fear rose from my heart almost instantly. Looking at Ariel's extremely panicked expression in front of him, Su Lin raised his eyes. "This is your last chance, don't let me down." As he spoke, lightning slowly dragged her forward, and Ariel seemed to be completely panicked. He continued to struggle, then raised his eyes and looked at Su Lin pitifully. The black aura around was extremely thick, even so thick that it made people feel a little chilly. What on earth is going on? In the past, when I acted pitiful, people would let me go. How could they be so unreasonable like this guy in front of me? Ariel's eyes widened, and her expression became even more incredulous. However, before Ariel could continue speaking, she couldn't help but become more and more frightened when she saw the still indifferent eyes of the person in front of her. "I feel like a caught dead fish, with no possibility of escape." In front of Su Lin, it seemed that I could only pray for his forgiveness. As the aura around her became increasingly dense and even more frightening, she seemed unable to bear it any longer. After struggling for a while, he continued speaking in fear. "Don't send me out, don't send me out. I can tell you anything, I can tell you everything, please." Looking at the emotion and panic in the other person's eyes, Su Lin narrowed his eyes. "Then tell me first. After you finish speaking, maybe I won't kill you." As Su Lin spoke, there was still a smile on his face, but that smile really made the people in front of him feel a heavy emotion of panic and fear rising from their hearts. At this moment, Ariel was completely panicked. His eyes were wide open, but he didn't dare to say a word. He just looked ahead silently, then took a deep breath cautiously. Looking at Ariel's appearance, the little telegraph machine narrowed its eyes slightly. "Isn't she a little too scared? It seems like she was almost scared to death by us." Looking at Ariel's pitiful appearance, the little telegraph machine couldn't help but speak. "But the words are not yet finished." Su Lin shook his head, then gently touched the head of the small telegraph machine. "A vampire who can survive in the foggy world for such a long time. Do you think she would be a coward?" As he spoke, Su Lin glanced at Ariel in front of him, and his plain words were full of coldness. After listening to Su Lin's words, the panic in Ariel's eyes completely disappeared. Instead, there was a vague feeling of confusion and shock. It seemed that he didn't expect Su Lin to know these things. However, the moment her expression showed up, Zai Lei, who had originally sympathized with her, couldn't help but be stunned. Looking at Ariel carefully, the expression on his face froze at this moment. He frowned and looked ahead, his eyes blinking. Immediately afterwards, a hint of dissatisfaction at being deceived appeared in the corner of his eyes. "Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? This guy is actually lying to me." To be honest, the little telegraph machine never thought that one day it would be cheated so easily. A little anger suddenly rose in my heart, and then my teeth clenched tightly. As his teeth chattered, the rage in his heart instantly burst out. Immediately afterwards, the rage accompanied by thunder and lightning washed forward. The thunder shone brightly, and the lightning completely illuminated everything in the forward area almost in an instant. The crackling sound continued to sound, making people feel cold in their hearts. Thunder and lightning appeared in an instant, almost scaring Ariel to death. However, before Ariel could continue speaking, the crackling sensation spread out directly. Her whole body was twitching from the electric shock, making her face look even uglier. "Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Why did I suddenly get an electric shock?" Chapter 265, Existence in the Dark. A dark cloud caused by lightning rose from the front. The fair skin was instantly turned into roasted black pig charcoal. At the same time, looking at Ariel's pitiful appearance on the other side. At this moment, the little telegraph machine continued to pad in the same place while cursing and pinching. Who told this guy in front of him to dare to lie to him? Anyone who deceives himself deserves a severe electric shock. The pitiful crackling sound continued to ring by my ears, and gradually emerged along with the waves of sounds in my ears. Looking at Ariel in front of him, he felt like he was electrocuted at the moment. Su Lin didn't have any intention of continuing to be his enemy. Instead, he looked ahead. He folded his hands in front of his chest, looking like he was enjoying a good show. After all, this guy was electrocuted like this, and I was just watching the show. It's just right to see if the lightning from this small telegraph machine can bring him back to his senses. If this guy dares to refuse me later, don't blame Su Lin for taking action. Thinking of this, Su Lin narrowed his eyes slightly, and a different look appeared on his face. Just watch Ariel being tortured by the small telegraph machine. Su Lin started a symposium with Lei Ling and others on the side. While holding some food he had brought with him, he used the light from a small telegraph as a light and watched her interrogate Ariel. The crackling sound constantly caused waves in the surrounding black fog. She didn't know how much time had passed, but when she saw Ariel's face and body turned completely black, she finally couldn't bear it anymore. Black smoke came out of his mouth. He clenched his teeth and spoke in panic. I give in, please let me go." Looking at Ariel's pitiful appearance, Su Lin frowned more obviously. A different smile spread across the corners of his mouth, followed by. He slowly walked in front of Ariel, looking at the small telegraph machine in front of her that was about to turn her into a mentally retarded person. After fiddling with the head of the small telegraph machine, he looked at Ariel and asked, "If it weren't for the talent, you would be dead by now." Having said that, Su Lin looked at the other person coldly, then continued speaking. "You don't have much time. If you can't tell me what I want within the shortest possible time, then I will have no choice but to kill you." As he spoke, a sense of coldness and dominance emerged in Su Lin's calm eyes. Looking at Su Lin's eyes, Ariel seemed to look forward cautiously at this moment, then lowered her eyes in fear. A full sense of fear once again emerged from my heart. Then she took a deep breath in panic, then looked around. I suspect the real secret place here is not the inheritance place, but darkness. After hearing this, Su Lin couldn't help but become more curious. What did it mean? And what do you mean this is not a place of inheritance? Does this guy in front of me know something? Su Lin looked ahead carefully, frowned slightly, glanced at the person in front of him, and then raised his eyebrows. Tell me everything you know, and maybe I can spare your life. As he spoke, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. While listening to Su Lin's words, Ariel forced herself to suppress the panic in her heart. After pointing forward, he continued speaking. That contains the darkness that could be the source of cholera, the kind that could kill people. As he spoke, the panic in his eyes became more obvious, and he was so scared that he almost cried on the spot. Looking at the other person's appearance, Su Lin narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the person in front of him carefully. Interesting, really interesting. He turned his head and looked into the depths of the secret realm behind him. According to what this guy in front of him said, there are some dark existences in the secret realm, a darkness that he had never thought of. What does this so-called darkness refer to? Su Lin was thinking in his heart, and his expression became more silent and thoughtful. I don't know how long it was before I heard a sporadic sound coming from my ear again. The sound was extremely obvious, and it gave people an extremely weird feeling. Feeling the voice beside him, Su Lin frowned even more at this moment. It sounds like something is crawling around me. The listeners' ears trembled, and their heads couldn't help but ache a little. He frowned and stared straight ahead. I don't know how much time had passed, but then I heard a voice again. Then an inexplicable mechanical feeling, and an inexplicable strange touch emerged in front of me. Another sound came from the side. Su Lin frowned and moved quickly. Lightning chain. The moment Su Lin touched the lightning passing by his side, he saw a pair of eyes that looked somewhat cold. Su Lin frowned. What is this? Why does it look a bit weird? The eyes flashed by for a moment, but he still saw coldness and inexplicable dissatisfaction towards himself in them, as if the master behind him wanted to kill Su Lin. But who is Su Lin? When he felt that the look next to him was not right, he subconsciously took a step back, and then even more powerful thunder rose from the front again. The violent thunder instantly blew up the things around him, causing them to scream on the spot. The voices of fear and a hint of anger spread throughout his ears. Feeling the panicked voice next to his ear, Su Lin's eyes and expression did not change much. But after carefully distinguishing the thing in his mind, he quickly understood what it was. If I'm not mistaken, it should be a indescribable monster, a thing that looks like a bug. It is not clear what it is. In the darkness, the other party's body seems to be best hidden and keeps emerging from all directions. Moreover, Su Lin could always feel the chill in the depths of the darkness, as if he was being watched by a hunter. You guys are just going to stand behind me like that for a while. He grabbed a few people beside him and focused on pulling Ariel and others behind him, still looking forward with extreme sharpness. After distinguishing for a long time, his eyes became even colder. That's right, the sound of the mechanical feet crawling on the ground is still ringing in my ears. If my guess is correct, that guy has actually been here all the time. I don't know what kind of monster it is, but Su Lin once again stirred up thunder. The moment the imprisonment skill emerged, lightning also gushed out from his hands. At the same time, a huge curtain of light turned into two wings behind him, firmly emerging. Although he didn't know what this thing was, but Chapter 266, what kind of existence is it? With so much brilliance, I don't believe you can still hide it. Darkness will eventually succumb to light, no matter how thorough or deep the darkness is. Under the influence of the power of light, you will eventually become like a rootless duckweed. Now in front of me, what does it matter even if the atmosphere around me is dark? It's just inaudible stupidity. Su Lin was very sure. There was a cold look in his eyes, and the movements of his hands were extremely domineering. The mighty lightning and the light in the sky seemed to merge into one, gradually enveloping everything around. At this moment, the thunder around almost turned into mist, and the light completely enveloped the sky. The endless light seemed to be about to shatter everything around in the next moment. Under that domineering and boundless power, the surging and terrifying aura makes people feel particularly chilled. At the same time, the vast light almost completely enveloped everything. Everything is extremely overbearing, and everything is extremely terrifying. Brilliant, brilliant. It was as bright as a god and floating like radiance, as if the sun had completely covered everything around it. Under the influence of Su Lin's domineering power, everything around him seemed to become more terrifying at this moment. I don't know how much time passed. Before anyone could react, the invisible light shot up into the sky again at this moment. Immediately afterwards, the dark fog began to dissipate under the influence of the light. That's right, it was as if it had encountered an irresistible enemy and was beginning to turn into ashes. The invisible force seemed particularly overbearing, and the surging and terrifying aura almost lit up everything around it like the light of the sun in an instant. At the same time, the violent power of thunder in Su Lin's body also burst into an even more mighty brilliance at this moment. Tyranny, the boundless tyranny, was particularly turbulent at this moment. The light and thunder seemed to become the most terrifying light in the surrounding world at this moment. The endless light completely illuminates everything around. The brilliant beauty enveloped the heaven and earth in an instant. And in that light, the originally dark world suddenly appeared. If this place was originally a vast and boundless world, then now it is a twisted place that is freezing cold and even feels a bit weird. Looking closely, compared to the original beautiful scenery of mountains and rivers, this place at this time only has an extremely cold light. Moreover, the original beautiful mountains and clear waters have completely disappeared, replaced by large areas of coldness. Everything around him became increasingly distorted. Looking closely, the weird scene makes people feel a little numb. Directly in front, where the entrance to the secret realm was originally located, it suddenly became distorted and strange, as dark as before. There was actually a huge black space right in front of me. The space was filled with all kinds of things. The dark space was full of twisted coldness, which made people feel even more numb and trembling in their hearts. What on earth is going on? Why is everything here like this? Looking at the scene in the dark space right in front of them, the hearts of everyone present at this moment became more and more trembling. Even in those darknesses, he saw some strange plants. If Su Lin remembered correctly, everything here should be a beautiful place with mountains and rivers. If he remembered correctly, it was right in front of him. It should be an extremely beautiful area, with a pond with a hint of green, giving a feeling of extreme greenery and clarity. But now this pitch-black scene makes people feel increasingly numb. What on earth is going on? At this moment, Su Lin frowned and looked ahead, his eyes revealing a bit of weird feeling, and he felt that at this time. Looking ahead, Su Lin had no time to say a few words at this moment, when he suddenly felt that something in front of him was becoming increasingly wrong. That's right. Not only was everything dark, but it also became even more distorted. What the hell is going on here? At this moment, Su Lin frowned and looked ahead, strange feelings constantly emerging from his heart. His eyes were fixed on the front, and the expression on his face showed that he was thinking at this moment. Just as Su Lin was thinking, in front of him, somewhere in the darkness, a black figure slowly emerged. It seems somewhat unreal, even its outline is vague. But that distorted moment gave Su Lin no time to speak, and he suddenly felt an even colder and vaster aura. The moment when the coldness penetrated into the bones made people frown even more. The sizzling friction sound still continued to come from my ears, accompanied by waves of sounds beside my ears. At this moment, Su Lin was looking forward with a frown on his face, and the expression on his face became more and more weird. Something is wrong. What the hell is this thing? Su Lin frowned and thought for a moment. After looking carefully ahead for a while, the corners of his mouth twitched even more. No matter what this thing is, it has a hidden head and an exposed tail, so it must be something bad at first glance. While thinking in his mind, Su Lin's expression couldn't help but become more and more frowned. The moment his eyes looked forward, the movements of his hands became much more ferocious. Since this guy doesn't intend to come out on his own, I can only beat you out. Thinking of this, his eyes couldn't help but look a little more ferocious. Lightning appeared in front of him again, and this time the light almost completely illuminated the surroundings. Then, boom, thunder roared, and a thick bolt of lightning suddenly fell. There was a hint of coldness and disdain in Su Lin's eyes. No matter what's in front of you, if it hits you to death, it will be useless even if you are a god. Staring intently at the figure in front of him, the power of the thunder in his hand became stronger and stronger. At this moment, the lightning around Su Lin even seemed to be flying more and more. Looking at the surging lightning in front of him, on the other side, Lei Ling on the side looked at Su Lin in disbelief, then looked at his daughter. To be honest, she really couldn't understand why Su Lin had such a powerful ability. Where did this thing come from? Why is he so good at playing with these things? Why does he feel a little more like a thunder beast than himself? At this moment, when Lei Ting was looking at Su Lin in disbelief, the light from Su Lin's side almost covered the sky to the extreme. Chapter 267. I admit that it was all the moon's fault. The power emanating from the brilliant beauty almost enveloped the heaven and earth together, in that surging and terrifying overbearing light. Then, accompanied by the rumbling sound of thunder, the whole world was instantly plunged into a sudden bright light, and the force in front seemed unable to withstand Su Lin's attack. Black fog continued to spread from all directions, and when this evil smell reached its peak, there was a sudden explosion, and immediately afterwards a black mist rose straight into the sky. Then black runes condensed in the air and hit the sky and the lightning in Su Lin's hand. Bang! A deafening collision sound echoed across the sky. The sky, raging with thunder, suddenly turned dark. But in the dark sky, silver snakes were constantly moving. The destructive thunder, the surging light, and the dazzling dark aura attacked each other. The invisible force almost completely destroyed everything around it. Under that vast and boundless breath, suddenly, waves of strange feelings arose from all directions. Immediately afterwards, thousands of lights moved above the sky. An invisible breath filled the air in an instant. A pair of blood-red eyeballs suddenly appeared in the sky, followed by terrifying power surging in all directions. Before Su Lin and the others could say anything, the blood-red eyes kept turning, and a hideous and terrifying face quietly appeared in the black clouds. Su Lin's eyes were fixed on the face in the sky. While frowning, he looked ahead carefully, and the strange feeling on his face became more and more obvious. Something is wrong, something is very wrong. Logically speaking, I should be able to see the power ahead. Unless, are you a phantom or are you being sealed? It seems like I understood something. He looked at the thing in front of him indifferently and asked calmly. Then he didn't get any answer. That's right, everything still seems extremely quiet at this moment, even so quiet that it makes people feel their scalp tingling. Looking carefully ahead, Su Lin couldn't help but frown. No matter whether you are real or fake, beat you first. Su Lin's tone was very casual, but as soon as he finished speaking, his arm swung down suddenly. Thunder is violent. It can gush out in an instant. A pillar of lightning instantly fell and flew straight towards the direction of that thing. As the lightning flew, it drew a beautiful arc in the air. Then in the pitch-black space, something exploded right in front of the eyeball. With a loud bang, it exploded directly. Bang! Wherever the lightning flashed, a burning smell instantly spread. Most of the black fog also dissipated. Not only that, under Su Lin's attack, the thing seemed to be seriously injured. It was not really a phantom. At the same time, half of it was real in front of it, struggling and rolling in the lightning. Ha, you are really tenacious. Although you are not a phantom, you are probably not the real person either. Otherwise, there would be data. Su Lin's tone rose slightly, with a smile on his lips. Then he raised his arm again, and several dazzling lightning bolts fell instantly. When the lightning fell on it, clouds of smoke instantly rose up and filled the entire sky. Whoosh! Golden light and lightning suddenly appeared in his hands. Surrounded by electric light, there is infinite brilliance. Under the light, the power in front reflects a dazzling light. That thing obviously didn't anticipate this series of events to happen. He thought that the moment he appeared, Su Lin would be as timid as a mouse as he had been in the past. But who could have thought that this guy in front of him would be so bold? The moment it sensed the crisis, it quickly retreated to the rear. But how could Su Lin let it escape? Swish! A sharp blade flashed by in an instant. Then a clear bloodstain was left in the air. Roar! A miserable howl came from the creature's mouth. At this moment, the area that was originally filled with dark mist suddenly became filled with gusts of cold wind. Su Lin's footsteps couldn't help but pause slightly, and at this moment, a large group of black insects suddenly swarmed out beside them. Pucha! Countless black bugs floated up and down around him. They are so dense, like a swarm of locusts passing through. Is it the obstruction of this force? Seeing this, Su Lin's eyes flashed. Then he waved his hand suddenly, and the lightning chain in his hand flew out instantly. Puff! The moment the short and powerful thunder penetrated the insect swarm, endless light suddenly burned up. The thunder and the flames spread instantly. Those insects were burned to ashes in an instant. At the same time, Su Lin's figure suddenly jumped up, with the light behind him, and the wings carried him up instantly and swung down suddenly. Bang! A loud bang suddenly exploded from that thing, or to be more precise, from right above the eyeball, and then the blood-red eye instantly exploded into two pieces. Plop! But it was only a moment after landing. The body of that thing disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Not even a drop of blood was splashed. Su Lin slowly stood firm and looked at the empty ground. There was a hint of disgust and disdain between his brows. What on earth is this thing? Su Lin shook his head and murmured. It looks like a phantom, but it doesn't look like a phantom when it's fighting. It looks a bit weird. It's really troublesome. He frowned tightly, and a hint of thought flashed in his eyes. Just as he was looking ahead with his eyes wide open, the sound of a small telegraph machine suddenly came from beside him. Have you finished beating that thing? It looked so disgusting just now. As he said this, the small telegraph machine moved towards Su Lin's direction, looking at the sky with dissatisfaction on his face. After all, that thing just now looked like an eye that grew independently. This single organ, as it continuously rotates above the sky, brings a genuine feeling of nausea to people. If Su Lin hadn't taken action, the little telegraph machine would have been so scared that it would have given that guy a bolt of lightning to give him a taste of his own medicine. Hearing Xiaodian's words, Su Lin couldn't help but feel a little comforted. But at the same time, he smiled and touched the other person's head, then looked up at the sky. That thing just now was killed, but the thing behind it is not dead. P.S. Getting ready to start a new book. In fact, the lifespan of this book has come to an end. I also never expected that during the holidays, the traffic would decrease instead of increase, which made the already sluggish performance of this book even worse. Until now, I can't hold on any longer. I have been forcing myself to write, and I admit that my recent writing has not been good. My friends are not satisfied with it either. It feels like torture for each other. Wow, I hope that when I open a new book, no one will scold me. Kneel down and apologize.